Our MC Mujin fights the squad leader, Cheolboin, and he's playing with him like a kid, even dodging an attack in midair. This pisses Cheolboin off, and he demands that our MC fight him like a man. Mujin then drops down, picks up his 100-kilo sword like it's nothing. As they both lunge at each other, Mujin quickly pulls his sword back and strikes Cheolboin's blade so hard that it knocks his sword back. Taking this chance, he punches Cheolboin in the face so hard he almost flattens his nose and sends him crashing to the ground. The others are shocked because he was never this strong before. To understand why our MC can do this to a squad leader, let's go back to the beginning. Our MC, known as the Divine Demon, is a powerful swordsman who finds himself going up against 9 powerful sect leaders in a quest for vengeance. His amazing and terrifying sword skills allow him to match up to the sect leaders. He cuts them down with so much precision that they are all confused as to how he is doing it. Before they know it, they find themselves getting cut off one by one, leaving them to conclude that our MC is nothing but a monster. Even when those who were still standing managed to pin him down and push a sword through his heart, he pulled through and sent them all to the afterlife, ultimately stamping his name as the Divine Demon. Just when he is about to die, his life flashes before his very eyes, and he feels the sense of relief of having fulfilled his mission. Our MC remembers when he was getting jumped by 3 kids, since he was a troublemaker in the Murim. He was ultimately saved by his master, who trained him. But in the end, he lived by the sword, killing people left and right. He wonders if life is all about what he did, and in that moment, he remembers his late wife. The best moments of his life were the ones he spent with his wife, but they were later taken away from him. In tears, he wonders what the meaning of his life really is, and in the end, he closes his eyes in death. Suddenly, he hears ranting all around him, and he assumes that he is in hell until he opens his eyes to see some annoying group standing in front of him and trash-talking him. Our MC is totally confused as he doesn't understand a thing about what is happening. Standing beside him are 2 kids, and the male child is defending his elder brother, saying they can't hand over the clan's martial arts when his brother is still alive. He mentions that no matter what happens, the martial arts must remain in their clan, the Flamehua clan. While our MC is still questioning what is happening, the opposition leader suggests that they make a deal to remove all of their worries. He calls our MC, Hua Mujin, and tells him that he is ready to offer money since his clan is utterly poor. In return, Mujin will wager his clan's martial arts, but they are going to duel for it. The winner of the duel then takes everything. The little boy is shocked when he hears this, since his elder brother, our MC, is totally useless when it comes to martial arts. Our MC is tired of all the noise, and he is forced to ask the group who the hell is Mujin when he knows that he is entirely someone else. His so-called younger ones are left confused when he says this, and they stare at him like some kind of madman. Even his rival is forced to ask him what he said, and he reveals that he is known as the Divine Demon, but this only cracks him up, and he suggests that Mujin call him the King of the Underworld instead. Apparently, his annoying rival is Cheong Dobo, and he is the second son of the Cheonghua merchant group. Mujin's siblings are pissed that his madness is already getting out of hand, which is why he is saying trash. Even the master of the Cheonghua merchant group, Bu Choyon, makes fun of the clan, saying their clan is already done for, since the eldest son is in a bad mental state. Mujin remains silent as he tries to understand what is really happening. Since he is not saying anything, Dobo assumes that he has accepted the duel, and he informs him that the duel will be held at the Byung Pavilion next month. Dobo reminds Mujin that they made the deal under the martial arts code, and he is not allowed to break it because there will be consequences for it. After the group is gone, Mujin's supposed siblings turn to him, asking him what he plans to do since they have forced a duel on him. What makes it worse is that Mujin has not even swung a sword before. Mujin laughs out loud when he hears this, since he knows that swordsmanship is everything that he lives and breathes. He tries to aura farm by accessing his inner energy, but he suddenly realizes that it is gone, like totally gone with no ounce of it left. Frustration sets in when he also realizes that his body is very frail and weak. His sister bursts into tears, begging Mujin to come to his freaking senses. The little girl tells Mujin that he is trash, and he also calls him a fool for getting walked on by the merchant group. Her brother scolds her for trash-talking their brother and suggests that she apologize, but she refuses. She blames Mujin for their parents' deaths, and she runs off in tears after saying this. The little boy apologizes on his sister's behalf, saying she sometimes loses herself in anger, and after saying this, he also leaves. Mujin is utterly confused because he can't believe that even children now hate his guts and they call him a madman. Mujin is confused, and he knows that the last thing he remembers is cutting through the sect leaders without mercy. Mujin believes that he should have died peacefully, but he has suddenly found himself in a strange body. He crashes to the ground in frustration, wondering who the kids are. Just then, a weird dude, who happens to be his assistant, comes running over to him, asking him why he went outside with his frail body. He claims that he has been worried about him, but Mujin simply asks him who he is because he obviously doesn't know him. The dude, Sok is surprised to hear this, and he assumes that Mujin is suffering from another seizure due to the madness affecting him. Since he believes that Mujin is truly suffering from amnesia, he decides to tell him his backstory. Apparently, Hua Mujin was once a talented and reputable kid whom several orthodox sects wanted as their disciple, and by age 23, he had become the clan's leader. Sok is tired of telling Mujin the story because he has repeated it over 6,000 times. Mujin doesn't think he was a promising kid because his energy core is obviously shit. In addition, he wants to know about the madness that everyone is talking about. Sok then decides to tell him about this too. 17 years ago, Mujin and Dobo had an unofficial duel, where they promised no inner energy. Mujin was 6 years old and Dobo was 9 years old at the time of the duel. Dobo agreed to this, and the fight between the two kids started. But as the fight progressed, Dobo broke their deal and struck Mujin with a punch imbued with inner energy. Mujin is disappointed at this, and he asks Dobo why he used the 7-wound fist techniques when they clearly promised not to do anything outside of throwing fists. Dobo makes fun of Mujin, telling him that the technique was passed down through the Kongdong sect and apparently the after effects are no joke. Apparently, Dobo had tested it out on his older brother who was acting all cocky and the technique left him bedridden. Since he was glad about how it turned out, Dobo was excited to see how it would turn out against Mujin. Basically, Mujin is now called a madman because they believe his condition is a result of the after effect of the 7-wound fist strike. Mujin is pissed that Dobo was the one who made him useless, but he is suddenly requesting a duel. Mujin then asks Sok how they handled Dobo after he rendered him useless. Sok then mentions that Mujin's father was the one who later gave the final verdict. Although Dobo was his cousin, he was also the son of the Cheonghua merchant group, considered to be one of the top 10 within the Central Plains. Even though Dobo did something terrible, Mujin's father only let him off with a warning. Mujin cannot believe just how useless the man is to have forgiven someone who rendered his son useless. Mujin concludes that the clan is total trash, and then he asks Sok where his parents are. Sok mentions that Mujin's condition progressively got worse, which led his father into debt because he was looking for ways to cure his illness. 9 years ago, his mother's sickness actually got really worse, and she passed away from it. 3 years later, his father joined his mother in the afterlife. Mujin basically became the son who killed his parents and ruined the clan. Because of this, the clan's reputation actually got trashed, and his siblings found themselves in a tight spot. All that is left of the family are debts and 2 loyal retainers and just a few martial artists. He also has his younger brother, Hua Dojin, and his sister, Hua Soyeon. Mujin finally realizes why his sister, Soyeon, said he is to blame for what happened to their parents. That night, Mujin went through the history books left behind by the original owner of the body, and he learned a few things from them. He realized that 30 years had passed since he defeated the 9 sects, and he now inhabits the body of a madman with no energy core. Since our MC carries no regret from his past life, he decides to live according to the Mujin and help out the helpless kids. However, he knows that the Cheonghua merchant group is going to be a big problem for him. They were basically the ones who rendered the body useless and also destroyed the clan. The first thing on his list is to plan for the duel he has against Dobo, which is the following month. Since the body is trash, he figures out that he has to rebuild his body from the beginning. He sits down to meditate and starts everything all over again like a beginner. He remembers that back in his old life, the first time he wanted to try cultivation, it was hard for him. However, things seem to be going smoothly with the current body thanks to the body's overwhelming innate martial aptitude. Mujin taps into the body's insane energy and tries to explore it to the max, leaving a golden light shining across his room. Momentarily, Sok and the retainers hear his scream and struggle from where they are, causing them to rush into his room. They find him on the floor, and one of the retainers jokingly says he is dead. He checks Mujin's pulse and realizes that it is stronger than before, but Mujin suddenly grabs him, asking him why his body is suffering from immeasurable pain just because he tried to form an energy core. The retainer is confused by this, and Mujin repeats himself, saying he wants to know if his body has some special constitution. The retainer then reveals his constitution is the heavenly martial body. Apparently, it is a rare heroic constitution, which is chosen by the heavens. Mujin gets hit with another wave of pain, and he finally figures out that the body's constitution is exactly the opposite of the demonic arts. Basically, a body of pure, upright energy will suffer intense pain when it tries to practice demonic arts. Mujin screams in pain, wondering why he got a body cursed with a very different constitution out of all the constitutions available. He concludes that things are really bad for him because the duel is just in a month. As he lies down in pain, he asks Sok who the 2 men are. Sok reveals that the man in green is the chief steward, Do Baekshun, and the man in red is an elder, Zhou Huanbong. The moment he hears the name Zhou, he remembers something from his past life, but the pain he is feeling is too much, and he ends up passing out. 3 days later, Mujin finally gets up from where he has been lying down. But Sok is worried that he is not taking enough rest. Mujin mentions that he is tired of lying down since he has a duel coming up, and he urges Sok to get him swords. Sok manages to keep himself from laughing when he hears this because the clan is still trying to get what to eat, and Mujin is asking for swords. Mujin is forced to ask if there is no money in the family, and Sok mentions that they are currently taking out loans from an unorthodox sect named the Bangho sect. Because the sect operates on a very high interest rate, they have found themselves in a whole lot of debt. It finally dawns on Mujin that to help the clan, he needs to resolve the money issue first. Nonetheless, Mujin doesn't think taking out more loans is going to hurt, since they are already drowning in debt. Sok is worried about this, but Mujin tells him to shut his mouth and write a letter to the two elders because he is going out on a walk. When the elders heard of this, they got worried about the fact that Mujin had made his way to the dangerous Bangho sect. Momentarily, Mujin and Sok arrive at the entrance of the Bangho sect. Mujin tells the big bodyguard to inform his boss that he would like to see him. The dude, Kang Noho, is not out to play games, and he tells Mujin to get himself into the building if he is there to gamble. Mujin insists that Kang take him to his boss, but this starts to piss Kang off. Sok quickly cuts in, urging Kang to calm down because Mujin is not right in the head. The tension between the two continues to rise until the vice master, Ma Jungbo of the sect, shows up, demanding to know what the issue is. Kang then tells his boss that Mujin is trying to meet their top boss. Ma asks him why he would like to meet their boss, and Mujin says he would want more loans. Ma then tells Mujin that he doesn't need to see the leader to get a loan, and he invites him into the building. Mujin and Sok soon find themselves going deeper into the manor using a wooden bridge, while they are being escorted by armed swordsmen. Sok is worried about the whole thing, and he tells Mujin that they still have the chance to go back before it is too late. Mujin disagrees with him, saying they have made it a long way already. Sok then tells him that there was a particular granny who saw the leader of the sect fighting, and it turns out that the leader is quite powerful because he overwhelmed his opponent in seconds. Apparently, the leader is a martial artist who has learned a powerful killing technique. Mujin is questioning Sok's reason for telling him this when Ma cuts in, saying Sok is more knowledgeable because he caught on pretty quickly. However, it is already too late for them because they have reached a deeper part of the cave, and before the two know it, they find themselves surrounded by armed swordsmen. Mujin is disappointed, and he asks Ma if this was his plan from the onset. Ma confirms this and says he intentionally led him in because he obviously cannot touch him in public. However, he's not ready to give him a free hand the same way he gave his parents. Sok is not arguing with the group, but he begs them to let his master live. Mujin, on the other hand, is pissed when Ma mentions his parents because he obviously has no parents until it suddenly dawns on him that he is now in another body. Since everything is ready, Ma orders his men to teach Mujin a lesson. One of them, who is very eager to carry out the order, goes after Mujin and throws a punch at him. Sok almost faints in fear when he sees the punch coming straight toward them. Surprisingly, Mujin blocks the dude's punch, ultimately shattering his bones from the inside. The dude screams in pain and crashes to the ground while claiming that Mujin used some sort of cheap tricks on him. Mujin teases him, saying he actually has soft bones compared to his size. Mujin figures out that he has to do things without the use of his pure power. Ma is pissed that his men are wasting time, and he orders them to finish Mujin off. One of the swordsmen charges straight at him with his sword, but Mujin easily dodges the strike and figures out that he has to keep moving since he can't match the dude's power. Using his flexible body, he is able to dodge and deliver a headbutt that crushes the dude's face. The dude falls back, screaming in pain, while his colleague takes over from him and tries to slash Mujin, but Mujin dodges the strike. The attacker tries another strike, but Mujin jumps backward before delivering a kick to knock the dude out of commission. Before the armed men know what is happening, they find themselves getting toyed with, and in no time, they crash to the ground on their knees. Standing in the distance, Sok cries out to make sure that his master is safe, but Mujin calls him a dull head while mentioning that he is fine. Sok is utterly blown away, forcing him to ask Mujin where he learned the martial arts skills that he is using. Mujin then tells the dude that what he is witnessing is not martial arts but something he picked up on the streets. Sok is shocked to hear this since he doesn't remember Mujin spending time on the streets. Ma commends him for successfully dispatching his men, but immediately launches his coin at Mujin with a powerful force behind it. The coin narrowly misses Mujin's head, but he can feel the pressure from the coin, shocking him. Ma then angrily tells his men to leave because he will take care of Mujin himself. Mujin is surprised that he is facing so much hostility when all he wants to do is talk to their boss. Ma angrily replies that his boss is not someone that a trash fellow like Mujin can meet. Ma angrily whips out his sword and lunges toward Mujin, ready to take him down. In a surprising turn of events, Mujin blocks his power strike with a pair of chopsticks. Ma is shocked when he sees this, but little does he know that this is all Mujin could get, since he has no money for a sword. Mujin and Ma continue to exchange blows, but Mujin stands his ground with some excellent martial arts. Before Ma knows it, he finds his hand impaled with one of the chopsticks. Ma cannot believe that Mujin was able to find an opening even though he was trying his best to cut him down. While Ma is struggling, Mujin is busy having fun, while telling Ma that he might just regret himself if he decides to underrate Chopsticks. Before Ma knows it, he finds himself struggling against Chopsticks, leaving him surprised because he believed that Mujin was just a weakling who could not use Qi. Ma is left to wonder how Mujin is able to reach such a terrifying state in a short space of time, but he doesn't want to believe that Mujin is the same person that he knows. Mujin continues puncturing his body with the chopsticks while telling him that he has such terrible skills. Ma refuses to lose to a pair of chopsticks, and he leaps into the air while aiming to finish Mujin off with his ultimate move. With how threatening he looks in the air, Mujin doesn't look scared one bit. He easily dodges Ma's attack, leaving him completely open. Ma is left to question why Mujin will have such a hidden power without him knowing. Mujin delivers a powerful punch to his body that fully destroys whatever pride he has left. With fear now reeking through Ma's body, Mujin repeats himself, saying all he wants is alone, but this time, he says it with a very deadly and terrifying face. Momentarily, Ma finally decides to sit down with Mujin after getting a thorough beating. His guards also find themselves bowing to Mujin while Ma talks with him. Ma then asks Mujin to tell him what he wants to know. Mujin asks Ma why his sect is lending a loan to his family without collateral, because he can sense malicious intent with the entire deal. Ma claims that they have no malicious intent, and Mujin is just overthinking things. Mujin doesn't believe this one bit because he can sense Ma's fear from where he is sitting. Mujin then decides to ask him again, but this time he urges him to think carefully if he doesn't want to be punished. Realizing that Mujin is not playing around, Ma finally reveals that they got their orders from the Cheonghua merchant group. Mujin is not surprised to hear this because he knows that the group was involved in some way. He then asks Ma what sort of deal it is that they made with the Cheonghua group. Ma is hesitant to speak, but Mujin quickly lets him know that if he dies defending the merchant group, he won't be missed. Ma takes some wisdom from what Mujin said and reveals that the merchant group ordered them to lend Mujin's clan whatever amount of money they want, but at a crazy high interest. In exchange for making the Hua clan fall, the Bangho sect will get the Hua lands after they are kicked off the chessboard. It finally dawns on Mujin that the family land was the collateral all along. Mujin then asks Ma how much 300 gold coins that he wants to borrow will amount to in a year. According to the contract, Ma reveals that the 300 gold coins would have amounted to 5,000 gold coins in repayment. Mujin is disgusted by this, but he really doesn't care, and he accepts the deal. With a more serious face, he asks Ma who helps them in cleaning up their messes. Ma then mentions that one of them is the social sect of the Four Martial Heavens, an alliance of unorthodox sects. Mujin is surprised to hear this, and Sok mentions that it is a new alliance. Mujin is irritated by the Four Martial Heavens, and he even calls the B word. Sok believes that his master's madness is playing because he has never seen him meet the alliance in the past, but he is literally cursing them out. Mujin then tells Sok that he doesn't have to worry about it because he is not in the mood to explain. Mujin is already getting tired of waiting, forcing him to ask about the dude who went to bring the money. The dude soon arrives with a box filled with the 300 gold coins that he needs. Mujin's eyes light up in happiness when he sees this, and he assumes that it should be enough. He tells Sok that it is time for them to leave, but Sok is still skeptical about the whole borrowing of a thing. Mujin simply tells him to shut his trap hole and take the money so that they can leave. Ma and his guards escort Mujin to the entrance when he is about to leave. Mujin then tells him to write down the date in his ledger, and he promises to clear all of the clan's debts once he has finished his business with the Cheonghua merchant group. In addition, Mujin warns Ma about taking money from the common folks, and failure to adhere to this will lead to serious punishment. Ma acknowledges the order, but deep down, he is pissed, and he cannot wait to see Mujin get screwed over. Momentarily, Sok and Mujin arrive at the house, and they are welcomed by the two elders. They immediately become worried when they see blood on Mujin's clothes, but he assures them that it is not his own. They ask him what happened at the sect, and he tells them that he simply went to borrow money. Mujin claims that the clan is in need of money because they need to feed their warriors to prevent the little they have left from running off. The elders don't want to believe that it was the sect that borrowed Mujin the money, and they assumed that he stole it. Mujin tells the elders that the sect has everything documented in their ledger, according to what he told them. Mujin then tells the elder that all he needs from them is to take care of his siblings and make sure that they are well fed and clothed. After handing out his instructions, he simply wishes them luck before walking away. Mujin then visits his parents' memorial room, but since he didn't have parents in his past life, he has no idea what to say. He finally opens his mouth to tell them that the money issue has been solved, and he also promises to take care of his siblings and servants, and by this, he urges his parents to rest in the afterlife. He also assures them that he is going to beat the brakes off of Dobo for challenging him to a duel. Unknown to him, he is being watched by Soyeon and Dojin, and the kids look absolutely impressed. Later on, Mujin ordered 3 swords that weigh 50 kilograms, 80 kilograms, and 110 kilograms respectively. The servants who brought in the swords almost broke their backs while doing so, but Mujin is just glad that his swords finally arrived. Sok is forced to ask him what he plans to do with such heavy-ass swords, and Mujin smiles, saying he plans to do what everyone else does with a sword, which is obviously swing it. Mujin excitedly reaches for the 50-kilogram sword and plans to start with it. However, his smile soon fades when he realizes that the sword is too heavy for him to lift. He concludes that the body is nothing but trash. However, he is not ready to give up. Nonetheless, he realizes that he can lift it a bit if he uses his 2 hands. Mujin can see Sok staring at him in disgust, and he urges him to get down to preparing his meal. He reminds him to add loads of meat to his food, and Sok dejectedly walks away in worry. Mujin sits with the sword, with the push that he has just 2 weeks to train his heart out before the duel. His body's constitution, which is the heavenly martial body, is the total opposite of the demonic arts that his master taught him. He figures out that the only solution he has is to learn the martial art of his master's friend, the peerless 9 swords. Refusing to give up, he starts swinging the sword by force inside the house. Meanwhile, Dobo has gotten the information that Mujin dealt with the Bangho boys so harshly that they will not be able to move for 2 weeks. Dobo is surprised to hear this since Mujin lacks an energy core to have pulled it off. Dobo smiles evilly while thinking of preparing something sinister ahead of the fight. Dobo is also excited to see what Mujin has hidden inside him when they finally go against each other in the duel. Momentarily, Mujin begins training his body in the hardest way possible. He figures out that he should be able to push the body to its limit since it's a body blessed by the heavens. While training, Sok is always preparing whatever it is that he needs. He believes that with the preparations, he will finally get the chance to start his training fully. He picks up the 50-kilo sword and starts swinging it around, while remembering what his old master told him. After trying out the first form, Mujin wastes no time graduating to the second form. He remembers what his master told him that no matter what weapon he faces, he is going to come out victorious. As the training progresses, he realizes that he is already getting overwhelmed, but he figures out that he has to endure it. In no time, he finds himself wielding the sword comfortably, and even leaping around the room as if the sword were not heavy. Momentarily, he moves over to the third form, while also trying his best to control his chi to become as powerful as it can. To help him with his training, he has a bunch of training items already prepared to simulate what a real battle will look like. His first opponent was a hardball, which he managed to dodge for some time before getting hit from behind. After this, he faces off against spiked bamboos, and by using the fourth form of the sword, he cuts down the bamboos. Apparently, his sword skill might look simple, but it is quite dangerous as it can cut through a whole load of things. Even with how much he tried, he was not able to hit logs flying at him with his fourth form, forcing him to graduate to the fifth form. This time he slices them all with his powerful fifth form. With his sword's power, he is confident that nothing can stop him, and numbers are nothing. After moving past the logs, he faces off against candles placed in bamboo, and for this, he employs his sixth form. He swung his sword so hard that it blew out all of the candles at once. Once he overcomes this, he figures out that his next stop is outside the house, where he can use his seventh form. Using his powerful seventh form, he scales through yet again. In no time, he reaches the ninth form with the determination that there is nothing his sword cannot cut through. He finally reaches the peak stage for the sword, and Mujin crashes to the ground in relief. But at the same time, he is not entirely pissed because he can't replicate his final form from his old life. He remembers taking teachings from his teacher when he was younger, but at the start, he never really took his master's teaching seriously. He believes that his master's friend was just taking a piss, while saying the trash and impossible feats about cutting down everything with a sword. His master admits that it might sound crazy, but he is not willing to allow his friend's martial arts to die. Since he was not able to properly inherit it, he wants Mujin to do so on his behalf. His master let him know that his late friend was the only swordsman who could go head-to-head with his skills. To make it more interesting, he had no chi, but Mujin's master says there is the possibility that he was using movement arts. Because those in his sect couldn't properly learn it, he decided to teach Mujin's master in an attempt to pass it on to someone worthy of it. After hearing this, Mujin laughs out loud to mock the arts, but his master flicks him on the head so hard that it almost crushes his skull. He tells Mujin that he has to follow whatever instruction he gives him, and Mujin has no choice but to accept his master's wishes. His master told him that if he performed the sword art 1,000 times, his body would change. But if he performed it 100,000 times, his chi would begin to enter his sword. Basically, swinging it 1,000,000 times will make him invincible to even the most powerful swordsman. Mujin was blown away by this because it is going to take him 3 years to finish the cycle if he swings his sword 1,000 times a day. This leaves Mujin asking his master if his friend truly matched his skill, but he says he has no idea, but he is pretty sure that one of them would have died if they had gone all out. Because of this, Mujin became curious about what kind of man his master's friend was. Mujin finally wakes up from different resounding slaps from Sok. Mujin figures out that he has a long way to go because he fainted just after practicing the move once, and he is nowhere near 1,000. Nonetheless, he has to eat because it is already late, and when he looks at the plate of food in front of him, he realizes that it is pork. He is disappointed, and he tells Sok to get pork the next time, since it is the easiest to help bulk up. He lets Sok know that he is free to use the money that they borrowed from the Manhwa Sect because he can easily borrow more later. He tells Sok that his plan is to keep eating beef for the rest of the duration that he fights Dobo. Sok then asks Mujin when he learned the martial arts that he learned because he is pretty sure that Mujin didn't know martial arts before. Since Mujin has told his siblings already, he figures out that telling Sok is also not a bad idea. Mujin then reveals that he is not the real Mujin because his real identity is the divine demon. Sok assumes that Mujin is joking around and spewing some fantasy nonsense. Sok says he is only worried that Mujin is going to lose his memories and just disappear one day, but Mujin grabs him, assuring him that he is not going to leave the clan until it becomes the greatest clan in all of Sichuan. After all, Mujin has no choice since he has nothing else to do. Sok taunts his master, saying he is spewing trash, but this earns him a painful finger flick to the head. Once they are done talking, Mujin tells Sok that he is free to leave, and Sok does as told. Meanwhile, the two clan elders are trying to run away with the kids before the duel since they believe that Dobo is going to kill Mujin, ultimately making the clan ripe for the taking. Shortly afterward, Mujin has trained his heart out so that he is now able to carry the 70-kilo sword with just one arm. However, his technique remains unstable, and he only has a week to the duel. He is sweating in the training room when the kids enter to check on him. Mujin urges them to leave because it is dangerous for them to be there. The kids tell Mujin that they are only worried about him because they have been watching him push himself to the limit for the past few days. Soyeon is worried that Mujin is doing all of these because of what she said, but she lets him know that she never meant it, because she was just angry. Staring at the two kids reminds our MC of his lover's siblings from his past life. Mujin pats them on the head, telling them that they have nothing to worry about. The two kids start to mimic Mujin while commending how great his posture was. The way the two are arguing with each other on who is wrong or right makes him remember when he trained with his master and had it tough. Suddenly, it dawns on him that the most important thing with the Peerless Nine sword is the breathing technique. Realizing this, Mujin tells the kids that he is going to win no matter what, and he urges them to go back to their room. The kids are worried, but they assume that things are going to be fine. Once he is alone, Mujin begins the breathing technique while swinging his sword hard. With the help of the breathing technique, he is able to use up his collected internal energy all at once. Before he knows it, he already grasps the idea of the movement arts, which is a chi art where one builds up internal energy through movement. Basically, movement arts are considered low-rate martial arts, which is why people don't think much about them. Using the breathing technique, Mujin is able to swing the sword much easily, giving him what it takes to cut down a statue. Meanwhile, Jo Hwanbong is seen talking to Sok about Mujin's sudden change. Sok tries to attribute Mujin's sudden healthiness to the one wudang session that he went through, but Jo is not a fool. He tells Sok to make sure he reports whatever changes he comes across to him. Sok makes his way to where his master is training, only to find it upside down. He tries telling him that his food is ready, but Mujin is disappointed, saying the training room is too small for him to train in. Because of this, Mujin says he will start using the training hall. Mujin makes his way to the big training hall only to find other warriors training there, and they all have their eyes on him. Sok tells the other warriors that he will have to train alone and suggests that they all move out of there. He urges them to use the other training hall, but the warriors are left wondering why a half-dead dude is spewing out instructions to them. They believe that Mujin is not a freaking martial artist just because he has a sword. Mujin notices the differences in their mood, and he comments on this. The other warriors want to stand up against Mujin, but the squad leader, Cheol Boyne, tells his men to leave the hall for the young master. Cheol ultimately believes that Mujin has lost his mind yet again. Just then, Mujin stops Cheol, letting him know that he should be a man and talk to him directly. Cheol then turns back, and Mujin suggests that they fight, since they are swordsmen. Cheol says he would not do this because Mujin is the future leader of the clan. Mujin then tells Cheol to remain a coward and not show his face, since he knows that he can't back his word. This is enough to get Cheol to unsheath his sword, ready to take on Mujin. The fight begins, and Mujin immediately pushes his sword into the ground before leaping toward Cheol in a daring move. He gets to Cheol and pushes his head before he can even react. The warriors are genuinely confused because they have never seen a duel without a sword before. Mujin continues toying with Cheol by moving around pretty fast, while Cheol struggles really hard. Cheol soon gets frustrated, and he tells Mujin to fight him like a man and stop evading his attacks. Mujin finally agrees to take him seriously a bit by grabbing his sword, but Cheol wastes no time running his mouth, saying Mujin is to blame for everything that has happened to the clan. Since Mujin is the cause of the problems, Cheol doesn't think he deserves to learn martial arts. Cheol dashes toward Mujin, but he meets him halfway with the 9th form of his peerless sword technique, ultimately shaking up his internal energy. Mujin doesn't give Cheol any breathing space as he lands a devastating punch to his face. Cheol is sent to the floor with blood spilling everywhere, while Mujin lets him know that things are about to be different. As he crashes to the ground, Cheol finally realizes the bitter truth that Mujin has fully changed. He can sense the determination burning right out of Mujin's body, unlike before. Cheol hits the ground, ultimately shocking Sok and the other warriors watching the duel. The warriors run over to check on their boss, who is lying down, totally knocked out. Mujin stands like a proper winner, while asking Cheol if he has any problems concerning his victory. One of the warriors screams at Mujin, telling him that he used a cowardly move. Cheol pulls himself together and screams at the dude to shut his mouth before admitting that he actually lost. Cheol pays his respect to Mujin while telling him that he has actually learned from him. Mujin acknowledges his respect and tells him that he is free to leave. As the warriors are stepping out of the hall, Mujin tells Sok to join them, since he truly wants to be alone. The aggrieved warrior continues complaining, and he believes that Cheol went easy on Mujin, but he lets him know that he didn't because he was planning to leave him half dead. The dude doesn't want to believe this, but Cheol lets him know that he is dead serious. Cheol says he doesn't know the full story, but it is evident that their young master has exponentially improved. Sok, on the other hand, is also wondering when Mujin changed so much, but at the same time, he is thankful that he actually changed. That night, the two elders have a meeting concerning the upcoming duel. The two have been in the clan for over 36 years and have been loyal ever since then. They talk about how amazing the Flame Emperor was during his younger days. He was a competent young man who showed off martial arts in such a way that even the powerful Tang clan had to admit that he was one of a kind. Basically, the elders were mesmerized by his strength, and they both swore allegiance to him. Joe believes that they are trying to break the loyalty, but Do disagrees, saying they just need to resolve the bloodline problem. Do says they have been looking after Mujin for 17 years, but the clan has been in decline ever since then. The two believe that they have done enough, and there is no way the Flame Emperor is going to blame them once they reach the afterlife. Basically, they have gathered the money they need to relocate, and in addition to this, a few martial artists to help them out. Do then tells Joe that he should leave first, while he stays behind to look after Mujin some more. Apparently, the martial master of the Kongdong sect hired by the Cheonghua will be the witness for the duel. Joe is surprised to hear this, since it is all pointing toward cheating. The merchant group is basically an evil bunch of craps who will make sure that there is nothing left of the Hua clan. Do tells Joe to take the kids and wait for him at their promised location, even though it will be a huge shock to the kids. Later on, Mujin realizes that the amount of beef he is getting smaller, leaving him to ask Sok why this is. Sok then reveals that the steward is giving him little money. And even though Mujin is pissed about the whole thing, he leaves it aside to show Mujin his cool outfit. Sok crushes his beautiful imagination by telling him that he looks better when he was all bandaged up. When it is time to leave for the duel, Mujin runs into Do outside the house. Mujin initially thinks he is there to stop him, but he says no, revealing that he is actually there to follow him to the duel. Mujin figures out that Do is just worrying himself when all he plans to do is beat his rival to a pulp. With this, Sok and Do join Mujin on the way to the duel venue. At the arena, everywhere is bustling with a crowd who want to see the duel and those who are there to make bets. Because of the high odds placed on Mujin, most put their money on him. Momentarily, he arrives at the arena with lollipops in his mouth, and those who saw him believe he is a weakling and would even prefer to cancel their bets. When he steps into the arena, he meets Choyeon, who asks him if he really wants to go ahead with the duel. The spectators, hearing this, believe that Mujin was the one who requested the duel first despite his weakness, and they believe that his madness is running riot. Mujin is utterly pissed when he realizes that the group is already painting them as the bad guys, and he plans to punish them for this. Mujin confidently tells Choyeon that he is not going to sit around and let her steal the secret manual of his clan, which is precisely why he has to fight them. The spectators are shocked to hear this because they never expected a merchant group to go after a martial arts secret technique. Choyeon is totally confident about the way things are going, and she believes that Mujin will pay for trying to act cool. The fire is set and all preparations are ready for the duel. The host announces that the duel's witness will be Han Yigong of the Kongdong sect. Han is seen standing on the balcony, looking all cool and strong, ready to bear witness to his master's wishes. He tells Dobo and Mujin to both fight fairly in front of the watching crowd. Just then, Dobo makes a shocking revelation, telling Mujin that the martial outfit that he is currently wearing was sent personally by him as a commemoration of Mujin's return. Mujin smiles when he hears this, and he whips out his large sword, telling Dobo that he will have no choice but to return the remaining goods after the duel. The entire crowd is shocked to see this because they have never seen anyone engage in a duel with such a large sword. In addition to this, they all believed that the Flame Emperor is known for his bare-handed martial arts. Even Do is shocked, and he asks Sok if Mujin said anything unusual. Basically, the two initially suggested that Mujin run because they believe he has no way of defeating his opponent. However, Sok is starting to have some sort of belief in Mujin, saying he might have a chance, but Do's conviction is completely different. Once both sides are ready, the referee hits the bell to start the game. Enraged, Mujin goes after Dobo right off the bat. He swings his large sword at him, delivering a powerful and devastating attack. Dobo narrowly dodges the strike, but it destroys the ground that it hits. The spectators are blown away because they never expected Mujin to be that fast and exceptionally strong. What everyone believed was that Mujin had no martial arts capability, but he was moving in such a crazy manner. Even Dobo is utterly shocked since he was expecting a very easy duel. Mujin continues with his attack as he charges toward Dobo yet again. He continues swinging his sword at him, but Dobo manages to block his hit, and they stand toe-to-toe against each other. This leaves a clashing sound and a glorious sight for them to see. Choyeon is surprised that Mujin is actually staying in the fight more than she gave him credit for. However, she is convinced that no matter what training he has done, he is still nowhere near Dobo. Mujin continues swinging his big sword at Dobo, but he easily dodges it, thanks to his flexibility. As the fight progresses, Dobo manages to land a counterattack that sends Mujin backwards, and he swears he is going to leave Mujin in a worse position than before. He is confident that he has what it takes to break a man's will. Standing at the balcony, Do confesses that he is impressed by how Mujin is holding out in the fight. Sok then tells Do that with what he is looking at, Mujin has not even revealed his trump card yet. Do believes that Sok is saying trash, but Sok mentions that he secretly watched Mujin train on his own, and he assures Do that something more powerful is coming. As the fight progresses, Mujin figures out that his strength is currently on par with Dobo's, leaving him to question the training procedure. However, he is not worried because no matter how strong his opponent is, he will always win, and this time, he plans to kill Dobo. Meanwhile, Jo is transporting Mujin's siblings, and he has arrived at his destination with them sleeping. He remembers Do telling him that the reason he is not coming yet is because he would like to stay around and gather whatever remains of Mujin after Dobo kills him. Even though Jo doesn't know if what they are doing is right, at least they have started already. Back in the arena, the two are still going at each other. Mujin is not worried because he believes that Dobo is nothing but a rookie to him. The two continue to trade blows, and even though it appears that they are matched, some believe that Mujin actually has the upper hand. People have started talking trash about Mujin, saying he is not that impressive. Just then, Dobo launches a powerful attack that he aims straight at Mujin. Do and Sok almost faint as they watch the attack go straight for Mujin, and all they can do is pray that he actually dodges the attack. Realizing that Dobo is onto him, Mujin employs the Peerless Nine Swords first form, the preemptive step. Dobo lands his hit, but thanks to the technique that Mujin used, he is able to block it, leaving the crowd in shock. Even Dobo is shocked, and he is forced to move backwards. Realizing that Mujin is going crazy, Dobo gathers his inner energy in preparation for a final strike. However, Mujin makes fun of him, saying his inner energy gathering is too slow. Mujin then activates his technique's second form, and he dashes toward Dobo with so much malice. Dobo can feel this, and all he can do is block Mujin's attack in a struggle, leaving him totally confused as he cannot believe that he is losing to Mujin. Dobo puts all of his strength into blocking Mujin's attack, but before he knows it, his sword shatters right in front of him. Mujin's sword passes through, slashing Dobo really hard. Dobo is thrown to the ground while Choyeon screams in frustration, calling out Dobo's name. Dobo lies there in a pool of his own blood with his right arm missing, and Mujin automatically wins the duel. Mujin then walks over to Dobo's arm and says he will be taking it with him as payment for the 17 years of grudge. Choyeon is shocked to hear this, and Mujin says that the merchant group might actually find a way to reattach his arm. Han leaps off from where he is watching to check on Dobo. Choyeon also rushes at them, and Han mentions that Dobo's energy core has also been destroyed. Han stares at Mujin, asking him if he really had to go that far. Mujin acts confused, asking Han what he meant by what he said, and Han says there was a clear gap in their skills because the fight was already over a long time ago. Mujin then replies that since he has a big mouth, he also has a lot to say. Mujin then asks if it was really necessary to use the 7-wound fist strike on the head of a 5-year-old child with no martial arts skill. With pure rage in his eyes, Mujin tells Han that what he just did is merely a closure of a grudge that he has been holding for the past 17 years. Mujin also adds that they are about to start paying for everything they have done against the Hua clan. With clear malice, he urges Han and his subordinates to prepare themselves very well. Choyeon crashes to her knees in pain, swearing that she will never forget what Mujin just did. As Mujin walks away from the stage, the spectators cheer for his victory because they are impressed by how he crushed Dobo. In addition to the beautiful things that they witnessed, they realized that they had never seen the sword he had used in the past. Basically, they are all hyped because a new martial arts master has been born. Do and Sok rush to meet Mujin, and he tells them that it is time they head back home. As he walks away, he suddenly turns back, asking Do if he has spent all the gold he entrusted to him. Do nervously replies that there is still a little of it left. Mujin then says he might have to stop by the Bangho sect because he would have to borrow money. Suddenly he tells Do that he doesn't care if he, Joe, and the other martial artists want to leave, but he lets him know that there will be great consequences if they try to take his siblings from him. He says this with so much killing intent that it almost cripples Do where he stands. Meanwhile, his siblings are already screaming at Joe for taking them away when they are supposed to be watching their brothers duel. Joe knows that they are done for when he reads the letter that the pigeon just delivered and realizes that Mujin unexpectedly won the fight. Do told him in the letter that they had been discovered, and he urged him to return to the house immediately. Without delay, Joe starts riding back home, but in fear, while the kids are celebrating that they want to go back and see their brother. Later on, Mujin tells Do that it is time for him to deal with the Bangho sect, and he tells Do not to worry himself about anything. Even though Mujin is now considered to be capable, Do urges him not to get himself entangled with the social sect in whatever way. Realizing that the old man is just overthinking things, Mujin tells him that he won't. With this, Mujin heads out to meet the Bangho sect, but Sok is worried that things might turn out horribly. Mujin says he can't delay things any further, and he urges Sok to stay very close behind him. Momentarily, Mujin arrives at the Bangho sect, shocking Ma because he never thought he would see Mujin again. Mujin tells Ma that he is there to pay back his debts, while also making fun of Ma because their sect now looks deserted. Ma tries to cover up their loss by saying most of the gamblers in the region only left because they needed to watch his duel against Dobo. Since he claims that everyone went to watch him fight, Mujin asks him if he held betting pools on his match. Without a doubt, Mujin is pretty sure that they gave him the higher odds, and from this, they would have made a bulk load of money. Since they have made some money, Mujin automatically reveals his interest, and Ma obviously knows that he is about to milk them. To avoid getting into any trouble with him, Ma tells him that they are going to express their gratitude. Mujin is pleased to hear this, since everyone obviously likes money. Ma can sense the cold aura coming from Mujin's body, and it simply shows that he is filled with so much killing intent. Mujin then asks Ma about his boss, and this shocks Ma, asking him why he wants to know where their boss is. Mujin slams his hand on the table, telling Ma that he is pissed when he has to ask a question more than once. Mujin is about to run wild when the leader of the sect, Chai Wung-gil, appears in the room. Mujin is surprised to see an ugly face who turns out to be the leader of the sect. Che confesses that his boys have already told him about Mujin, and Mujin asks him why it is so hard to see him. Mujin doesn't hold back from taunting him, telling him that he has an ugly face. Standing behind Che is an interesting fellow, and Mujin asks if the fellow is his servant. Flowing out of the dude is pure malice, and he turns out to be Death Black Crow from the social sect. Black Crow scolds Mujin for eyeing his money, and even though he was told to avoid the social sect, Mujin just found himself staring at one. Mujin simply tells the dude to keep his mouth shut if he doesn't want to die. Black Crow angrily dashes at Mujin, ready to tear him apart, and this scares Sok. Mujin doesn't feel any threat coming from Black Crow, as he is determined to take down anyone who gets in his way. Mujin throws a chopstick at Black Crow, and with so much power behind it, he punctures his hand. This is when it dawns on Black Crow that Mujin is not an ordinary dude, and he needs to take him seriously. Mujin then tells Black Crow that he wants no compliment from someone as trashy as him, but this gets Black Crow mad, and he angrily runs toward Mujin again. This time, Mujin decides to meet him halfway, and he runs toward him, but suddenly vanishes right in front of him. He appears behind him, shocking him. Black Crow frantically throws hands at Mujin, but he easily dodges while making it obvious that he is toying with him. Black Crow cannot believe that someone as young as Mujin is actually dodging his attacks. Mujin then decides to put one more hole in Black Crow. Mujin pushes the chopstick into his left eye, causing him so much pain that his scream scares those who are watching. Black Crow falls to his knees while calling Mujin the B word, telling him that the social sect will come for him for attacking a member. Mujin is interested to see what the sect is capable of, and he kicks Black Crow in the head while telling him to urge the social sect to come at him all they want. However, before the sect comes, Mujin lets Black Crow know that he is not leaving the room alive. Just then, Black Crow starts begging, telling Mujin that he is ready to give him anything he wants as long as he spares his life. Mujin is surprised that Black Crow desires to live, but since he offered him wealth, Mujin holds back from sending him to the afterlife. Black Crow says all his wealth is in Dechang, but he promises to bring them back. Mujin is ready to take the deal, but he assures him that he is a dead man if he doesn't return with the money. With fear creeping through his body, he rushes off, promising to be back as fast as he can. Once he is done dealing with the Black Crow, he turns to Che, who is already pissing his body, and he tells him that it is time they settle their debt. Che immediately falls to his knees, begging to be spared, while promising to give everything that he has. Mujin laughs at this, telling Che that he has nothing to offer him because his properties are already his. Che is confused when he hears this, and Mujin tells him to add the profits he has gotten out of commoners in addition to the lives he has ruined by manipulating martial clans to equal out his assets. With tears in his eyes, Che says he is willing to give Mujin everything, but this pisses Mujin off and he shatters Che's brain, reminding him that he can't offer him what he already has. Fear grips everyone watching this, and Mujin turns to them, asking them who is after him in the command line. Ma quickly steps up, saying he is the vice sect leader, and he falls to his knees, begging to be spared. He promises Mujin that he is going to live honestly if given another chance. Because he pleaded sincerely, Mujin decided to spare his life. Mujin then asks Ma how much Che was worth, and Ma starts with his house. He says everything is worth 4,000 gold, and Bungho's assets are about 10,000 gold. In addition, there is a 500 gold tribute from the Sozal sect. Basically everything totals over 20,000 gold, and Mujin mentions that he wants everything to come to him. Ma then tells him that he is going to prepare everything and bring it to him. Mujin is pleased to hear this, since he wants everything handled without delay. Once Ma is gone, Mujin stares at the other sect officers with a very deadly expression, and he tells them to start negotiating their lives. This shocks them, and he reminds them that Ma is the only person he promised to spare. Fear grips them, and they start begging to be spared. Momentarily, Mujin returns home with several boxes filled with treasures and money, leaving Do shocked. He tells Do that each of the boxes has about 400 gold in it. Do tries to remind Mujin that the Bungho sect is backed by the Sozal sect. However, the main problem is not the Sozal sect, but who is allied with them, and this is a scary dude named Ju Sugang. Do adds that the sect also adds that the sect has the Black Crow and the Red Crow too. The moment he hears Black Crow, Mujin tells Do that he has already dealt with him. This shocks Do, and Mujin tells Do not to place him on the same level as him or Joe, because anyone who comes looking for the clan's trouble will end 6 feet under. After he is done saying this, he tells Do to get him some beef, and he also orders that his siblings are well fed when they return. As Mujin turns around to leave, Do cannot believe that Mujin has already put fear in Black Crow, who is considered a menace across the region. Do basically realizes that Mujin is totally different from the person he once knew. Meanwhile, Choyeon has hired assassins to take out everything dear to Mujin, but she orders them to bring back one of the kids alive. In the past, the Flame Hua clan was pretty successful, and the remarkable man known as the Flame Emperor drew admiration from countless martial artists who were always watching him. He even received praises from the prestigious Tang clan of Sichuan. In a single generation, the Flame Hua clan became a martial clan that no one could ignore. Those who are considered peak martial artists even think twice before messing with the Flame Hua clan. Because of this, there was a time when the people of Xichang would cheer passionately whenever the clan's members walked the streets. However, after the Flame Emperor died, the next patriarch showed how trash he is, and because of this, the Flame Hua clan gradually declined. Those who had been loyal to the family started walking away one after the other. With this, the image of the emperor who once ruled his world became split among those who remember him and those who don't. But the one thing that remains is that he is an extraordinary man. Because of the immense aura that Mujin has when walking, the elders start comparing him to the late emperor. Soon afterward, wounded warriors show up to tell Du that they have been ambushed by assassins, and Elder Joe and a bunch of warriors are the only ones fighting the assassins. The moment Do hears this, he realizes that the 2 young ones are in danger, and he tells the warriors to notify Mujin immediately while he goes ahead of him. In the forest, Joe finds himself standing up against the assassins, since the warriors with him have been taken down. Even in the face of immense danger, he stands strong with all readiness to protect the kids. Just as he is about to be overwhelmed, Du shows up just in time to lend him a helping hand. This pisses the assassins off because they had almost accomplished their mission before Du showed up. The assassin leader screams at his men, telling them to take down the 2, and another round of fierce battle ensues. Du manages to exchange a few blows with the assassins, but old age soon catches up to him and the assassins get the upper hand. Before he knows it, he gets cut on the shoulder, forcing him backwards. One of the assassins then makes Du his mission, and he tells his comrades to kill one of the kids. He pushes Du backward, forcing him to stay on the defense, but Du refuses to back down. Moments later, Du gets cut really badly, and he screams out in pain. Du crashes to the ground with no way to defend himself or the kids. Since Du is out of the equation, the assassins focus their attention on the kids, asking which of them they are going to kill or spare. Even though Dojin can't do anything to help, he still stands his ground to defend his sister, and the assassins decide that he will be the one to die. Just as they are about to cut Dojin down, Mujin's voice echoes through the forest, telling them to stop right where they are. He looks absolutely menacing as he dashes toward them at a great speed. But the assassins don't look scared since Mujin was previously known as trash. The assassin leader then tells his men to kill Mujin since he has decided to get in their way. One of the assassins dashes toward Mujin, but Mujin uses him as the first target for his rage. He shatters the dude's sword with little to no effort before launching a vertical strike that cuts the dude in half. Without wasting time, he moves past the dude and heads for the rest of the assassins. The moment they see how crazy he is, the leader of the assassins orders his men to come together and take Mujin down at once. The group quickly gangs up on him, but before they can reach him, Mujin activates the Peerless Nine Swords' fifth form, called the Army Slayer technique, and he slices through all of them like tissue. One of them tries to get the edge on Mujin, but he easily dodges before relieving the dude of his head. This is when it finally dawns on the surviving assassin that they are going up against a monster. Before he can even make another move, his right arm has left his body and he screams in pain. Mujin then tells him not to make another move if he still wants to remain among the living. Mujin turns around to see Joe helping Do up, and Dojin is covering his sister's eyes so she doesn't see the carnage going on in front of them. Dojin assures his sister that they have nothing to fear because Mujin has shown up and has beaten up all the bad guys. Mujin walks up to the two and he asks them if they are okay. Dojin assures him that they are good, and Mujin suggests that they must have been scared. But Dojin tells him that he is not, claiming that he is the son of a martial master. Mujin is relieved to hear this and he pats the boy on the head for his bravery. He then tells Elder Joe to take the wounded warriors and his siblings back to the estate. The moment the group leaves, Mujin turns his attention to the last assassin, telling him to keep his mouth shut about his chopped-off arm. Mujin then asks him if he was sent by the Chonghua merchant group. The dude hesitates before answering, and Mujin tells him that he might spare his life if he answers honestly. The assassin gets curious when he hears this, and he quickly reveals that Choyon hired them through the Death Forest faction. After telling Mujin what he knows, he asks him if he is going to let him just like he said. Mujin then tells him to run back to Choyon to tell her that he has wiped out the group she sent after his siblings, and to let her know that he is coming for her head next. Later on, everyone has their eyes on Mujin as he walks through the street with his body soaked in blood. Those who have been looking down on him in the past couldn't do that again, since they can't risk becoming one of his victims. The people are curious to know if the prodigy that they knew when he was a kid is finally back. After making sure he has farmed enough aura on the street, Mujin finally returns home and Masak comes running over to welcome him, but Mujin pushes his head aside. He asks Masak if the wounded warriors are all in the medicine hall, and he says yes. Masak reveals that Dojin and his sister are also resting in their chambers to regain their strength. Mujin is glad to hear this, and he tells Masak to prepare a bath for him. Moments later, Mujin soaks himself in the nice bath prepared for him by Mujin. While taking his bath, he thinks of his siblings and his desire to keep them away from seeing the bad in the world. Even though they are children from a martial clan, Mujin doesn't think it is right for them to be exposed to cruelty at a young age. However, at the same time, he is worried that he is projecting his past fear onto them. The next day at the medicine hall, Mujin walks up to Elder Joe to ask him about the Red Flame art manual. Joe is shocked when he hears this, and Mujin asks him why he is startled. Joe asks him why he is asking for the manual, and Mujin realizes that Joe is worried that he is going to relapse and tear things apart. Joe subtly replies that this is not his reason, and Mujin basically tells him that he is planning to train on his own, since Joe is currently out of commission. Mujin can also see that Joe is doubting his ability, but Joe denies this. Mujin then assures Joe that he has nothing to worry about because he is not going to throw a fit. Realizing that Mujin has no ill intentions, Joe finally provides the manual for him. After Mujin is gone, Joe expresses his worry to Do, asking him if he has not made the wrong decision by giving Mujin the manual. Do tells him not to worry because Mujin has been displaying some really excellent swordsmanship of late. Do says it was because of Mujin that they were able to survive the assassination attempt. Do also adds that Mujin appears to have been cured, and he believes that the Taoist's treatment is working. Joe agrees that the treatment is working, but at the same time he wonders if the treatment is also helping with his martial arts skills. Do also say Mujin's sudden improvement is something to note, and he believes that he had a fateful encounter because this is the only explanation for his sudden improvement. Joe is happy with the way things are going, and he believes that the clan's decline is finally coming to an end. At the training ground, Mujin calls his siblings together to train them. Mujin explains the concept of the whole training to them, telling them that they are expected to move very fluidly. He mentions that it is a fundamental movement technique that he created himself based on the countless real combat experiences. The two are impressed when they hear this, and Soyeon cuts in, expressing her shock, since Elder Joe claimed that Mujin has no real combat experience. Dojin cannot believe that his sister is basically saying things as they are. Mujin then suggests that they move past the boring talks, and he tells the two to come at him with the basic fist technique that they have learned. The two take their pose, and they come after Mujin at the same time, but their movements leave Mujin ultimately disappointed. The display from the two made Mujin wonder if the two were truly from a martial clan. He realizes that the two lack the basic movement to even be considered martial arts. Frustrated by the poor showing that they are displaying, he tells them to stop. He says they need to stop training for the day because his head hurts. The two are surprised that he is claiming he has a headache when they didn't even touch his head. Mujin then lies that the two are more skilled than he thought. He tells them that the only thing they need to do at the moment is to strengthen their bodies before learning any advanced techniques. After the two are gone, Mujin realizes that he has a big task on his hands and it won't be easy. He then realizes that his master must have had a hard time training him too. Nonetheless, Mujin is prepared to restore the clan to its greatness since he was the one to blame for what happened. In addition to this, Mujin aims to defeat the one person he failed to defeat in his previous life. Mujin then grabs his sword and he begins his solo training. And he can clearly see that the sword has gotten really light in his hand. He also figures out that his speed is increasing with every repetition of sword forms. Some days later, Do and Joe finally return to duty. Maesok tells him that they have done everything he asked, and he commends them for a job well done. But Maesok wanted more. Mujin angrily reminds him of what would have happened if he had arrived on the scene a bit later. Mujin then warns the elders, telling them that they are going to die if they ever pull such a stunt again. The two acknowledge this, and they bow to Mujin while apologizing for being foolish. Moments later, the said Taoist who treated Mujin Do Youngsu shows up. Mujin doesn't know who he is, and he has already insulted him before Maesok tells him that he is the Taoist who treated him. Maesok apologizes to the old man, saying Mujin has not fully recovered, which is why he is acting the way he is. But Mujin kicks him off for saying trash about him. Mujin then decides to play along, and he tells the old man that he is sorry for not recognizing him. Mujin urges the man to follow him, since he must be exhausted from his long journey. Some days earlier, Maesok had told Mujin about the Taoist priest, saying he inherited the Taoist lineage of the Wudang sect. Maesok claims that Mujin was healed thanks to the positive energy healing from the priest, and he reveals that the chief steward paid a huge sum to invite the Taoist. Now in the present day, Mujin is glad that he is finally meeting the man, which is why he is inviting him inside the compound. Mujin then asks him if it is true that he inherited the Wudang sect's Taoist lineage, and Youngsu confirms this, while acting all cool. He mentions that he is the only Taoist to inherit the essence of the Wudang sect's true lineage. The moment Mujin hears this, he stamps on his feet and asks him with all seriousness if he is truly the Wudang White Immortal, because he has never heard of any successor of Wudang's Taoist lineage still alive. Youngsu wants to act like a fool, but Mujin lets him know that he has a little time frame to come clean before he changes his mind. The Taoist maintains his innocence, asking Mujin if he is doubting the one person who healed him, but Mujin immediately whips out his large sword. He tells Youngsu that since he is claiming to be a Taoist, he says he should have no issue dodging his strike. Mujin swings his sword and barely misses cutting the old man in half, but the strike leaves a huge dent in the floor. Maesok and the elders panic when they see this because they believe he is going crazy. Mujin tells the trio to keep their mouths shut and get him water because he wants to show them something funny. The moment the water arrives, Mujin soaks Youngsu with it. Youngsu still tries to act like he knows nothing, as he asks Mujin if this is the way they repay kindness in the clan. Mujin ignores him and grabs his long beard, which immediately comes off, shocking the elders and Maesok. Even Youngsu realizes that he is screwed because they have found out that he is wearing a fake beard. Mujin makes fun of him, saying he even tried his best to glue the beard carefully. Youngsu soon finds himself answering to Mujin and his retainers, and Maesok asks Mujin what he plans to do to the dude. Mujin replies that he has no intentions of letting Youngsu go, and he says he might just cut off his limbs and turn him into an eunuch too. Youngsu freaks out when he hears this, and he starts begging Mujin to spare him. Mujin assures him that he has no intention of killing him because if he does, there is no way for him to get his money back. Mujin says he just wants to cut off his limbs, but Youngsu begs in fear, telling Mujin to leave his body parts intact. Youngsu promises to return all the money that he swindled. Mujin accepts the deal, but lets him know that he is also going to charge him for not cutting off his limbs in manhood. Scared for his limbs, Youngsu tells Mujin that he is ready to pay back any amount as long as Mujin leaves him whole. Mujin then asks Do how much the dude collected from him, and Do reveals that he paid him 50 gold Nayang. Mujin hears this and expresses his disappointment about how gullible Do is to have fallen for Youngsu's scam. In his defense, Do says he heard that Youngsu was a great healer. Mujin then turns to Youngsu, telling him that the first thing he's going to do is pay back the 50 gold. Youngsu reveals his intention to pay back the money, but claims that the money is back at his residence in Jinyang. Without hesitation, Mujin tells him to lead the way to Jinyang, which is 4 hours away. Do and Joe ask if they should come along, but Mujin tells them that there is no need for this since they are still recovering. He urges them to stay at home and make sure that there is no trouble. As he leaves with Youngsu, Do senses Joe's worry, and he urges him to trust the dude on the matter because he is no longer the man he used to be. Moments later, they get to where Youngsu's carriage is waiting, and Mujin is shocked to see the type of luxurious carriage that the dude is riding. This basically shows how well his scamming business is going. Mujin is even more blown away when he steps into the carriage and sees just how decorated it is. The inside is lined with cotton and finished with leather, and Youngsu says it is perfectly done because he travels a lot, so comfort is a necessity. Mujin smirks, saying Youngsu has a strong work ethic for someone who is a cook, and he asks him why he is not doing honest work, since he is a professional. Youngsu bows his head to Mujin, assuring him that he is going to embark on something legit from that moment forward. Mujin then lies down comfortably, telling the old dude that he needs to sleep. He suggests that he wake him when they have arrived at their destination. Youngsu acknowledges the order and assures Mujin that he will wake him the moment they arrive. Deep down, Youngsu holds ill intent toward Mujin, and he can't wait to show him what happens when someone wrongs him. The carriage soon departs, and after some hours of traveling, they arrive in a very silent and secluded area of the forest. Youngsu steps out of the carriage to meet an acquaintance, who appears to be a bandit. He tells the dude that Mujin is fast asleep inside the carriage. He tells the bandit to drag him out and make an example of him. The big guy is excited to do this because he doesn't know why someone would mess with the business of a Taoist. The big guy walks into the carriage and sends a punch in Mujin's way. Just as his punch is about to land, Mujin turns around to block the punch with his sword. Mujin smiles evilly while asking if they have arrived already. Mujin is disgusted with the guy standing above him, and he sends him flying out of the carriage, shocking Youngsu. The bandit feels the impact of Mujin's hit crawling through his body, and he decides to get serious since the claim about Mujin being impressive is not a false claim. Mujin slowly walks out of the carriage, asking Youngsu when their destination ended up being an isolated forest. Mujin finally realizes that he is a target for the Taoist too. He thought he was just a scammer, but then he figured out that he had other schemes too. Mujin doesn't take offense at this because he was looking for some action anyway. Mujin unleashes an overwhelming aura from his body while telling the big guy that he would like to see what he is made of. The big guy can sense the pressure coming from Mujin, and he calls on the rest of his gang to come out so that they can both take Mujin down together. 3 other big guys emerge from their hiding places, and it turns out that they are known as Zhongshan's 4 demons. The moment Mujin takes a good look at them, he can see that they are wielding demonic energy, but he doesn't say anything about this. Mujin makes reference to the variety in their weapons and tells them that he would like to see the depth of their skills. Without wasting any more time, Mujin dashes toward the leader of the team and pushes him away from his teammates. He puts him on the defensive as he continues launching a series of attacks on him. The rest of the team soon realizes that Mujin is after only the dude, and they mobilize to help him. Even the dude getting attacked is feeling the severe hit from Mujin's strikes. He compares his attacks to those of a heavy mace. He soon loses his balance, and Mujin kicks him in the face, crushing his mouth. Just then, the rest of the team catches up, and the closest tries to take Mujin's head off with his axe, but Mujin easily dodges and delivers a powerful elbow hit to his belly, causing the dude to scream in severe pain. The other 2 try to take Mujin down with a pincer attack, but he dodges, forcing the 2 to overextend their arms. This creates an opening for Mujin to easily punch one of them to the ground. Mujin then goes after the last dude, and the dude tries blocking Mujin's attack with his sword, but it shatters right in front of him. Mujin's sword almost cuts the dude in half, but Mujin holds back. The dude's life flashes before his eyes, and while he is still trembling from this, Mujin sends him flying with a powerful kick to the chest. With this, Mujin takes the 4 down, and he has them on their knees, struggling to breathe. During the fight, he has confirmed that they are using demonic arts, but this leaves him wondering how there are demonic arts in the Central Plains. Mujin considers them his juniors, and he doesn't want to kill his juniors. He is contemplating on what to do when the leader of the team screams out, telling Mujin that they are conceding defeat. He begs Mujin to spare them, and this is when Youngsu realizes that he is screwed because Mujin was able to easily defeat Zhongshan's 4 demons. The leader of the team admits that they already figured out that Mujin was way above them after the first few moves. Mujin then asks him why they kept messing around when they already knew this. Mujin assures the dudes that he will spare them, but he is going to destroy their energy cores and sever their meridians. The moment they hear this, the team leader goes on his knees and begs Mujin not to ruin their lives as martial artists because they only did what they were told. Mujin then tells the dude to stop whining because they are already old as it is. Mujin demands to know who they learned from, and the dude initially acts confused until Mujin tells him that he would like to know his master. Mujin mentions that he can clearly see that they are using demonic energy, even if it is pathetic. Mujin is curious to know who taught them demonic arts, and the team leader reveals that they don't know his name. Mujin is pissed when he hears this because he can't believe that they are a bunch of useless disciples who don't know their master's name. The team leader then confesses that their master never told them his name, and he also adds that they shouldn't look for his other disciples. Mujin replies that they should have just put their heads down and learned trash martial arts instead of engaging in banditry. The team leader quickly corrects Mujin's misconception, saying that they are not thieves. He mentions that they only helped with their brother's business on the side. Mujin is surprised when he hears this, and he scolds them for helping him even though they know what Youngsu's business is. This is when the team leader reveals that they believed he was in the business of saving lives. Mujin decides to let them go, and he tells them to stop being lackeys for Youngsu. He threatens to kill them if he ever sees them do bad things again. The team leader thanks Mujin for having mercy on them, and Mujin turns to Youngsu, telling him that the amount of the bill he is going to pay has just increased. In fact, he is going to pay for messing with his mental health, and this leaves Youngsu totally horrified. After the carriage leaves, the four brothers suddenly awaken to the fact that Mujin is someone worthy of being their master. The four then chase down the carriage and they get it to stop. Mujin is wondering why the carriage stopped until he steps out to find the four bowing to him and calling him boss. The four tell him that they are pledging their loyalty with the assurance that they are going to serve him until they die. They beg Mujin to take them in, but Mujin believes that the four are suffering from being beaten up by him. He tries to discard them, but the four roar even louder, demanding that he take care of them while revealing that they are still quite young. This comes as a surprise to Mujin, who thinks the four are old dudes since they all have ugly faces. Mujin maintains the fact that the four cannot be younger than him, who is 23 years old. He asks them if they suffered an energy deviation or something. The leader of the four is surprised by this because they expect Mujin to just believe that they are young. Mujin adds that he is surprised that demonic arts users manage to become warriors of the ruined households of the Orthodox sect because it actually makes no logical sense. The eldest of the four, Cheol-muk, who is 21 years old, then tells Mujin that his master always said that being a demonic arts user is a way of living, not a faction or affiliation. Also staring at Mujin is the youngest of them, who is 18 years old, Nosak. Mujin agrees to Cheol's take, but wonders what sort of Orthodox family would accept demonic arts users because they might just get dragged into scandals. The second brother, Dongjiok, who is 20 years old, cuts in, telling Mujin that no one would dare to say such a thing because they are just going to bash their heads. The third brother, Jungtai, who is 19 years old, agrees to this too. Mujin then tells them that they must follow all of his instructions if they want to serve in a household, and the four shout in unison, telling him that they are going to devote themselves. Tired of their screams and all, Mujin has no choice but to tell the brothers that they are now warriors of the Flamehua clan. Soon afterward, they arrive at Youngsu's large mansion, and he invites them into the house. His servants are surprised to see him with strange faces, and they ask him what happened. But Youngsu instructs his servants to prepare food in the annex. However, Mujin tells him to forget about the food because they need to go to the treasure room immediately. Youngsu agrees and starts leading them to the treasure room while his servants almost crap their pants thanks to the scary presence of the four demons. Mujin is also surprised that Youngsu has been living so well thanks to the money he has swindled over the years. Just then, they run into a warrior, Sojin. Sojin asks Youngsu if there is any problem, but Youngsu rushes over to tell him that there is no problem. He urges him to go back into the house, but Sojin insists that Youngsu tell him whatever is wrong with him. Mujin then cuts in, asking Sojin why he keeps sticking his neck into other people's business when they already told him to leave. Mujin mentions that he can clearly see that he is Youngsu's guest, so he should stay away from the entire situation because guests are not supposed to meddle in household affairs. Sojin insults Mujin, saying he has a big mouth, and Cheolmuk wants to jump in to deal with Sojin, but Youngsu urges him to stand down because it is all a misunderstanding. Youngsu tells Sojin to stand down, and he decides to introduce Mujin and the four to Sojin, telling him that they are his guests. Instead of just staying back, Sojin decides to be even more rude when he finds out that Mujin is the master of the Flamehua clan. Mujin ignores him, telling him to move aside whenever he is done talking trash. Mujin is about to walk past him when Sojin tells Mujin that he should be ashamed of himself for running around with demonic users while terrorizing commoners. He then adds that Mujin's grandfather would be weeping in his grave as it stands, and he still doesn't stop there. He proceeds to call Mujin a pathetic trash too. Even Youngsu screams at Sojin for going too far, but Sojin assures Youngsu that he is a pro and would never lose to a scum like Mujin. Just then, one of the brothers whips out his weapon as he steps up to deal with Sojin, urging Mujin to give him permission. Mujin then tells him not to worry because he is going to handle the situation himself. He leaps into the plain arena, urging Sojin to join him, and Sojin excitedly does so. Sojin dashes toward Mujin with the intention of impaling him, but Mujin blocks the attack with his large sword. He commends his sword style, but tells him that he lacks strength. Mujin continues to play around with Sojin, and in no time, Sojin starts feeling the strong vibrations rocking his sword. The four demons see this, and they know it is over for the dude because he is already backed into a corner by Mujin. They mention that his sword is about to break, and if his sword doesn't break, his skull is going to break. Just as predicted, Sojin's sword shatters, and Mujin smiles evilly before sending the dude into the wall. The four demons are not surprised by this, and Mujin tells one of them to throw his iron club to him. Since the dude tells Mujin that his grandfather is going to cry in his grave, Mujin tells him that he is going to make sure that he sends him to his grandfather. Mujin starts beating the dude so hard that his cries rock the entire house. The four are impressed at how Mujin is beating the dude like a baby. Youngsu panics when he realizes that Sojin is about to die, and he rushes over to meet Mujin, telling him to spare him, assuring Mujin that he is going to pay for his life. Youngsu mentions that Sojin has ties with the unorthodox martial heavens, and it would be bad if they allowed someone like the dude to die in his house. Youngsu assures Mujin that he is going to pay for Sojin's life, no matter how much it costs. Mujin smiles when he hears this, saying he thought Youngsu was putting his hope in Sojin. Moments later, they make their way into the treasure room, and Mujin comments on how rich Youngsu is. Mujin wastes no time, and he suggests that they start calculating everything. He starts with the four demons, saying each of their lives costs 500 gold coins. Youngsu cannot believe his ears, because Mujin just agreed to accept the four into the clan, but he is still supposed to pay for their lives. Mujin then continues by telling Youngsu that the compensation for his limbs is 200 gold, while his life is worth 300 gold. Mujin then tells Youngsu that Sojin's life is worth 1,000 gold because he was very rude. Lastly, Mujin tells Youngsu that he is going to pay for his psychological damage, which is 3,000 gold. After he is done calculating, Mujin just tells the dude that he wants everything he has. He asks him if there is any objection to this, but Youngsu says no with tears running down his cheeks because Mujin is worse than even bandits. In no time, the four start packing up all the money in the room, and Mujin spots a folding screen standing in the corner. He notices a strange aura coming from the screen, and Youngsu notices that Mujin is staring at the screen. Youngsu asks him if he likes the screen, but Mujin replies that he is not sure. Youngsu then mentions that the folding screen is the work of a man named Master Jiang Sosan. Surprisingly, Youngsu tells Mujin that he is free to take the screen if he wants. Without hesitation, Mujin agrees to take it, and Youngsu cannot believe just how greedy Mujin is. Once they are done loading the treasure into Youngsu's carriage, Mujin tells him that he will be taking the carriage because he surely does not need it again. Youngsu has no objection to this, and he tells Mujin that he can take it. With this, Mujin and the four demons ride away, while Mujin tells Youngsu to make sure he lives a righteous life. Mujin lets him know that he is going to see him again another time, but Youngsu prays that they don't see each other again because he has basically robbed him of everything he has. Youngsu starts wondering what he did so wrong that he had to run into a lunatic like Mujin. When they finally arrive at the Hua Clan Manor, Masok freaks out. He starts asking Mujin where he got all the money from because he is convinced that he killed for it. Mujin assures him that he didn't kill to get the money, but he urges him to keep the money, since they were running short of funds. Mujin then asks Masok if the four demon brothers look old to him, and Masok mentions that with everything he is seeing, they are well past 40 years. Mujin smiles when he hears this, saying he is going to tell the four of them this. Mujin then asks Masok where Joe and Du are because he has not seen them since he got back. This is when it dawns on Masok that the two are currently hosting important guests in the reception hall. Masok tells Mujin that they already told him to bring Mujin the moment he returns. Mujin is shocked when he hears that they have guests, and he immediately assumes that another scammer has shown up, but Masok clears the air, saying he is wrong. He also urges him not to beat up the guests. Mujin then makes his way to the reception hall, where the elders excitedly introduce him to the three merchant group leaders who have been supporting the clan during difficult times. The first merchant leader introduces himself as Peng Kwano, leader of the Pungyang merchant group. The second dude is Dong Guanyo, leader of the Muryong merchant union, and then the third dude is Huang Yocheong, the golden finance manor master. The trio expresses their joy that Mujin is back to his healthy state, and Mujin returns the courtesy. After some minutes of sharing insights and tea, Mujin asks them if they are there to collect the debts that the clan owes. This comes as a shock to the trio, and they let Mujin know that they have no intention to pressure him for repayment because they only came to congratulate him after they heard he had awakened. They even apologize if it seems they have caused him discomfort by coming. Mujin then tells the trio that he is grateful for their devoted support, but he lets them know that their repayment would be handled properly. Mujin mentions that he recently just gained his senses, and he is still not fully aware of the clan's current state. Because of this, he lets them know that he wishes to know the total debt that the clan owes their groups. Joe is surprised to see Mujin talking about repaying, but Mujin ignores him, and he continues with what he is saying. He tells the trio that they need to know the exact amount before they can discuss the repayment schedule, and the trio agrees to disclose the approximate amounts. As for the Pungyang merchant group, the clan owes them 5,300 gold. For the Golden Finance Manor, the clan owes them 3,200 gold. And lastly, the clan owes the Muryong Merchant Union 1,900 gold. After they are done disclosing the amount, Mujin totals it to 10,400 gold. Just then, the merchant leaders decide to say something that has been bothering them. They reveal that they have been under pressure from the Chonghua merchant group, and this surprises Mujin. The trio reveals that the Chonghua group has been using their massive financial power to make things hard for them because they are stressing out the Hua clan for the debts they owe. In fact, the Chonghua group has monopolized all their trading goods and cut off all the merchant groups that were dealing with them before. They even went to the most shameless part by stealing their branch managers. The trio is forced to admit that they no longer have the strength to endure the suffering. Apparently, they are being pressured to submit the rights to debt, which is why they had no choice but to speak up. Mujin then replies that he is thankful for all of their help so far because they were the only ones who stood by the clan while it was falling apart. Mujin lets them know that he understands that gratitude must be repaid properly, and he assures them that he is going to repay everything they are owed right away. This shocks the trio, and Mujin adds that in return for the interest and all the help they have rendered, the clan is going to free their groups from the grasp of the Chonghua merchant group. This shocks the trio, and they ask Mujin if he is trying to use force on their behalf. Mujin confirms this, saying this is exactly what he means. Du speaks up in fear, telling Mujin that the Chonghua group is being backed by the scary Kongdong sect, which is one of the strongest sects within the entire Morim. The trio realizes that Do is freaking out, and they urge him to calm down, telling him that getting the debt repaid is more than enough because they don't want the Hua clan to clash with the Kongdong sect. They assure Du that their minds are now at ease, and while they are saying this, Mujin remains mute. After the meeting is over, the trio takes their leave, wishing the clan more success in the future. Mujin then tells Do to immediately gather information on the Chonghua group, starting from their finances, operating regions, trade goods, and even their ties with the Kongdong sect. Du freaks out when he hears this, and it dawns on him that Mujin might actually be serious about what he said. Mujin is surprised that Do even thinks he is joking. He reminds Du that he already said grudges and kindness must be settled clearly. Mujin says the Chonghua group will continue to be a pain in their arse if they allow them to continue operating. Mujin also adds that if they can't protect the merchant groups when they need it, they are not going to help them again. Because of this, Mujin is prepared to help them even if it is just once. However, he knows that the trio is going to dismiss the whole thing as the mad bravado of a lunatic. Just then, Mook shows up, telling Mujin that they have completed the task he gave them. Mujin is glad to hear this, and he tells the group to gather around so that they can greet the clan's elder and chief steward. Du and Joe almost faint when they realize that they are staring at the four demon brothers. The four pay their respect to the elders, asking them to look after them, but the two are too shocked to even reply. Mujin tells the two not to be too shocked yet, because there is something more shocking. He mentions that the four are younger than him, and the elders almost lose their minds. Even Masak, who is standing behind, doesn't want to believe his ears when he hears this. The brothers, on the other hand, wonder why the elders are freaking out because of them. The elders then ask Mujin why he brought in the four demon brothers without consulting them first. Mujin then throws it back to them, asking if they consulted him when they tried to sneak his siblings out of the mansion. Mujin then tells the elders that he holds the authority to make the four brothers stay or leave. He reminds them that he is the one who will become the next clan patriarch. Mujin then turns to Masak, telling him to go and buy a cow. Du is surprised to hear this, and he reminds Mujin that they have no money because they just paid out over 10,000 gold to the merchant groups. Mujin stays silent, and he simply takes them to the treasure room where they almost lose their minds. Mujin lets them know that he got everything from Youngsu, but he assures them that he didn't kill him. Du asks Mujin about the folding screen, and Mujin mentions that Youngsu claims that it is one of Jang So-san's pieces. Du almost passes out in shock when he hears this, and Mujin continues by saying the least they are going to sell the screen for is 90 gold, which is why he took it. Since there is money, Mujin tells Masak to stop talking and just go buy the meat. Meanwhile, Mujin knows that there is something wrong with the folding screen. The following morning, Mujin calls out his siblings, the four demon brothers, and the clan instructors. Mujin lets them know that he has come to the conclusion that they all need special training. He mentions that the foundation of swordsmanship is the body that wields it, and no matter how great the martial art is, it is useless if the body is weak. Because of this, Mujin lets them know that they are all going to start special training, which he is personally going to supervise. He then tells them that the sack of rice that is lying at their feet weighs 144 kilograms, and this will be their loyal training partner. Mujin adds that the rice is not food, and if he catches any of them eating it, they are dead meat. On the other hand, Dojin and Soyeon notice that their own sacks are about 15 kilograms at most. Cheolboin then asks Mujin what they are supposed to do with the sacks, and he tells them to hoist them onto their shoulders. Cheolboin is shocked to hear this, and another warrior complains, talking about how the sack is too heavy for even two men to lift. However, Mujin's countenance changes and he screams at them to pick up the sack or else get trashed by him. He lets them know that his sword might not be enough to slice cleanly, but a hit from it would definitely break their bones. He lets them know that they have a choice of picking up the sack or sparring with him. Scared of Mujin's words, the warriors immediately pick up the sacks. However, Mujin tells the 4 demon brothers that they are to carry 3 sacks each, and if they don't want to, they are free to spar with him. The fear of sparring with Mujin pushes the 4 to immediately carry 3 sacks as their eyeballs want to pop out. The elders freak out when they see this, as they start wondering what it is that Mujin is trying to do. Mujin continues to motivate them as he lets them know that they have the strength to lift the sack as long as they have the right mindset. Mujin mentions that there is nothing impossible because only death awaits if they fail. Once everyone has picked up their sacks, including his siblings, he tells them to start sitting and standing. He lets them know that they are going to do this 200 times. Mujin makes the first move, and he tells the others to follow him as he screams out the order. The group screams as they try to maintain the stance, but Mujin continues to encourage them, telling them to tighten their stomachs and push up, or else they will die. Mook can feel his entire body crashing underneath him, but he knows he is dead meat if he can't endure it, because Mujin would simply beat him to a pulp. The elders start wondering what sort of training method Mujin has dedicated the warriors to, because watching it alone is exhausting. While they are sitting and standing, Mujin continues to motivate them, telling them that all they have been doing so far is wasting the clan's food under the pretense that they are martial artists. He lets them know that they have no right to complain about the training or anything else because they don't deserve to live if they can't endure just this little. By dusk, they finally reach 200, and one of them collapses the moment he makes the count. Mujin is not impressed that they had to spend the whole day just to warm up. He lets them know that their stamina is pathetic and that they don't deserve to be called martial artists. He then tells them that from that moment forward, they are going to become one with the rice sacks. He tells them to train with the sacks, eat with them, and even sleep with them. He mentions that the sack is their partner until he says otherwise. He then tells Jung to tie everyone to their sacks, and anyone who unties the sack would have their lives untied as well. Jung is so exhausted that he wishes he could see his mother's face. As Mujin makes his way to his room, tells Masik that from that day forward, everyone is to get beef for every meal. Masik then asks if he should prepare bathwater, but Mujin lets him know that he is going to tell him when he is ready. The moment Mujin crashes on his bed, he sleeps off immediately. That night, the whole group reports to the dining hall with their sacks tied to their backs while they eat. One of the warriors turns to his boss and mentions that his hands are shaking even though they only trained their legs. His senior lets him know that he is not the only one feeling this way. Apparently, this has never happened when they trained with their previous master, which makes it totally strange. The next day, the torturous training continues, and they are required to do push-ups this time around. Mujin makes sure to monitor their stance while they do the task he gave to them, even though he is also doing it. Cheolboin cannot believe that the warriors are all doing the push-ups, even though it is strenuous as hell. The following day, they take the training outside as they crouch around the village with the sack on their backs. The villagers watch in horror as they try to understand what it is that they are watching. The training still continues the next day as they push the sacks up and down. Even Mujin is feeling the pain, but he is impressed that his siblings are keeping up better than expected. He wonders if he should raise the difficulty, and the next day, he leads the group to a river with a mad current. The warriors are shocked when they see this, and while they are still doubting why they are there, Mujin tells them that their aim is to cross the river while carrying the sacks. The current alone scares the warriors, and to make it worse, there is a waterfall at the end of the river which makes it even more dangerous. While the others are panicking, Soyeon is excited to participate in the grueling training. Suddenly, it dawns on her that Dojin can't swim, and she suggests that they tell Mujin about it. At the same time, the elders tell Mujin that crossing the river might be impossible because the current is too fast. They mention that people have died while crossing, not to mention those who are carrying heavy loads on their backs. Mujin smiles at the old men for worrying too much, and he lets them know that everything has been tested before they decide to proceed. The elders are confused because they don't know when Mujin tested the river crossing. Mujin just ignores them, and he tells the warriors that all of them are to cross the river or fight him. The moment the warriors realize what is at stake, they start jumping after Mujin. Even Mook tells his comrades that it is better they fight the current rather than face Mujin. Before they know it, all of them are already jumping into the river. Even Dojin has no choice but to jump into the river, even though he doesn't know how to swim. Dojin is desperate to prove that he is also a warrior of the Flamehua clan, which is his motivation to jump in. However, the current is too strong and Dojin finds it hard to keep up. Before he knows it, he loses his grip and starts sinking to the bottom of the river. The elders see this, and they scream at Mujin, telling him that Dojin is being swept away. Surprisingly, Boyne goes after Dojin, and he manages to grab him before it is too late. He tells him to take a deep breath and hold on tightly to him because they are going to charge straight for the fall, since it is already too late. With this, the two fall directly into the waterfall and the elders scream out in fear. However, moments later, Dojin and Boin emerge in the distance. Boin commends Dojin, telling him that he did well, and Dojin thanks him for saving his life. Mujin shows up on the scene, asking Dojin if he is fine and didn't slam into anything. Dojin assures Mujin that he is fine because Boin showed up at the right time to save him. Boin, on the other hand, is shocked that Mujin showed up right after, leaving him to wonder when he had been following them. Mujin then tells Dojin not to push himself too hard because it would be bad if something were to happen to him. Dojin replies to his brother, telling him that he is ready to see this till the end because he can't stay a child forever. With fierce determination, Dojin mentions that he can only become a proper martial artist of the Flamehua clan if he stays strong. The next day, the warriors are required to climb a steep cliff with the sacks on their backs. The moment they reach halfway up, Mujin tells them to crawl up quickly because falling from their current position means certain death. One of the warriors, a brown-headed dude, concludes that Mujin is crazy and he should have stayed back. But suddenly, he loses his footing. He starts falling, but manages to grab onto one of the warriors. He begs the dude to help him, and he urges him to grab the rock in front of him. After this, the warriors run back to the manor because Mujin lets them know that whoever falls behind will have to carry him on their back. A kid watching the whole thing is forced to ask his mother if the warriors are death row criminals, but his mother lets him know that they are warriors of the Flamehua clan. Suddenly, Soyeon crashes to the ground, and Elder Joe rushes over to check on her. She appears to be exhausted, and she urges Joe to carry her. Elder Joe immediately carries her, and as they walk past the other warriors, they find out that Soyeon was only faking the exhaustion. Mujin realizes that some are not happy with this, and he tells them that they are free to collapse like a little girl, since they are all comparing themselves to her. However, he lets them know that whoever does so might as well just sign his death warrant. When they finally reach the manor, they all crash to the ground, totally exhausted. Just then, one of the warriors, who helped the brown head, walked up to him and scolded him for always lagging behind during training. He screams at him, asking him how long he plans to be a wimp. He tells him to stop dragging others back if he knows he doesn't have the strength to keep up. Just then, the dude mentions that he is doing this because Mujin threatened to kill them. Apparently, he has been meaning to quit the whole warrior thing a long time now. However, he is scared that Mujin might just kill him if he says he wants to quit. The dude then screams at him, telling him that he is scared of Mujin, which is why he has been lagging behind in training. The dude threatens to kill the brown head since he is not fit to be a warrior. However, Boin cuts in, telling the giant dude that not everyone can be like him. The dude acts rudely and punches Boin in the groin, telling him that he is just going to start by killing him. Mook then intervenes, telling the warrior to back off because Boin is right. He mentions that the brown head is doing the best he can in his own way. He mentions that the brown head is also their brother since he has come to the clan too. The giant dude argues that there is no way they are going to become strong if they keep acting like a wuss, but Mook tells him that Mujin has been training a few years ahead of them, which is why everyone is supposed to take things differently. Mook then tells the dude that he can only say such hurtful things when he has managed to surpass him. The giant dude angrily walks away, telling the brown head that he is going to kill him if he ever causes him pain again. Later that night, the giant dude is leaving the toilet when he hears someone in the distance. He quietly walks over to find Mujin training with his sword in the middle of the night, all by himself. The dude is impressed at how fast Mujin's movements are, and it dawns on him that Mujin is way above his league, even though they are not far apart in age. Suddenly, Mujin notices that someone is watching, and he tells whoever it is to step out before he comes to find him. The dude has no choice but to come out of hiding, and Mujin asks him what it is that he is doing. The dude then replies that he was on his way back from the restroom, and he ended up running into his training session. He promises that he has no intention of watching on purpose, and Mujin tells him that he was already getting bored with the whole training thing. He tells him to drop the rice sack and pick a sword. The dude is shocked to hear this, but he does as instructed. Mujin then orders him to come at him, and the dude dashes toward Mujin at great speed. However, Mujin blocks his attack pretty easily while holding his hand behind him. The dude continues to make a move, and suddenly he realizes that he has become faster than before. Mujin also notices this, and he agrees that the dude has gotten better, but at the same time, he believes that he is not focused yet. Mujin manages to get behind him, and he slaps him so hard in the back, knocking him to the ground. Surprisingly, the dude immediately gets back on his feet. Mujin comments on this, saying he once went down in one hit, but it seems his strength is now usable. Even the dude realizes that something has changed in him because he would have been rendered immobile if it was before. Mujin then commends the dude, and he tells him to get some rest. The following day, Mujin tells the warriors that they are going to be working on their abdomens that day. He instructs everyone to lift the rice sack between their legs and hang on to it. The first group does as instructed while the others wait in awe. After they are done with this, They run into the village again. The brown head is about to fall off when the giant dude surprisingly walks up to him, telling him to endure because they are almost there. Mujin notices this, and he smiles because his teachings are working. A month later, Mujin gathers the warriors to tell them that the special training is over. He tells them that they are free to untie the ropes and set down the sacks. Just as they are about to start celebrating, Mujin lets them know that they are going to be doing this training every year during the summer and winter seasons. He informs them that the next training will be during the next winter, which is just a few months away. However, he lets them know that it would be easier, since they have already experienced it once. Mujin basically tells them that they have come to the end of the training, but he reminds them that a strong body becomes a strong sword. However, he tells them that it is time for him to conduct a personal sparring training with them to deepen their experience. He tells them to step forward once he calls their names. And just as expected, they were all beaten senseless. But the pain brings experience, which in turn brings new change. With this, the 4 demon brothers were fully inducted into the clan as instructors. Just like that, the clan gradually began to regain its former glory, which once was a beacon in Xicheng. Later on, Du watches as Dojin spars with one of the instructors, and surprisingly, he is holding his own. The elders are happy to see that Dojin has also regained his happy face. They are glad that the 4 demon brothers have settled in, and this is all thanks to Mujin coming back to his senses to stabilize the clan. Du mentions that things are going so well that he is even scared. Apparently, Mujin has been stuck in the storage room for some days, and they wonder when he is going to finally come out. Unknown to them, Mujin is having a mental battle with the folding screen. Mujin notices that the stronger he pours out his inner energy, the more powerfully it pushes back with an even stronger force. However, he is excited to see who will give up between him and the folding screen. Days later, the folding screen finally expended the last of the energy in it, giving Mujin a way to force through. Mujin then walks up to the mirror and presses a button, which releases a bottle that contains a greenish substance. The smell from the bottle is bad, and Mujin admits that the person who installed the device in the screen is truly strange. Mujin finally realizes why he was feeling like some weird poisonous energy was leaking out. Suddenly, a book falls out of the folding screen, and Mujin picks it up. To his surprise, it is a manual on mind-severing sword art, which is what they were trying to hide on the screen. Mujin immediately sits down to study the book, but in the end, Mujin is left disappointed. He figures out that everything in the book is on par with one of Hubei's 10 great martial masters. Even though he is disappointed, he doesn't think it is a complete waste of time. He notices that the way the owner used the cultivation method is different from him, who uses the movement arts. Mujin figures out that the art is going to suit the Flame Hua clan much better. Basically, the reason he hasn't been able to teach the warriors swordsmanship is that there is a difference in his fundamental cultivation method and theirs. Apparently, the foundation of the Peerless Nine Swords is movement arts, while the foundation of the Flame Hua clan is yang energy martial arts. It is important to note that the two energies have conflicting properties, which means recklessly mixing them might lead one into energy deviation. This is the major reason why the Peerless Nine Swords must only be passed on to a pure beginner with no prior sect. Mujin figures out that he was just lucky that the body he reincarnated to already had its energy core destroyed, which was why it was left in a perfect state of nothingness. Thanks to this, he was able to build up movement arts easily without any problems. Mujin smiles at the book in his hand because he knows this is about to become the sword art of the Flame Hua clan. Shortly afterward, Mujin takes the book to the elders, telling them to read it. The elders freak out when they realize what it is that they are holding. They tell Mujin that it was the original text of the mind-severing sword art that was lost more than 10 years ago. They can't believe that such a high-level martial art was stuck inside the folding screen. Mujin mentions that Youngsu most likely doesn't even know that it was there. Du then asks Mujin if he really wants to teach the martial arts to the warriors, and Mujin reminds him that the clan doesn't have a proper swordsmanship martial art, so it is basically their luck. Mujin mentions that starting from the next day, he is going to start teaching the warriors, but he is not sure the instructors will be ready to learn it. Mujin then walks off, telling them that he needs to sleep, but he tells the elders that they are free to copy it if they are also willing to learn it. The moment they hear this, they start celebrating like fish that just found water. Not only this, but the warriors also celebrate like they just won the lottery when they were told about the martial arts. In the past, the clan had lacked a martial art that they could call their own. Since this was a high-level art, it made the warriors bound even more tightly. Just as expected, Dojin and Soyeon also excitedly jumped on the wagon. However, the 4 demon brothers only focused on their own martial arts because they were already training harshly in their own way. Mujin is confident that without the mind-severing arts, the 4 have what it takes to rise through the ranks of martial arts. Before they knew it, another month had passed. Mujin steps into the yard and he is surprised to find it empty. Mujin then asks Masak where everyone disappeared to, and Masak mentions that the sparring tournament, the Little Dragon Ascension tournament, is being held. Mujin is confused when he hears this, and Masok assumes that he forgot. Masok mentions that this is Shichang's biggest event, which is held once every 5 years. Apparently, the winner gets the right of qualification in the Orthodox Muram tournament. The moment Mujin hears this, he leaps off into town without even asking Masok where the event is being held. Mujin tells Masok that he should have told him about something like this, and he is pained that the old men are trying to enjoy the good show by themselves. Meanwhile, Joe and the kids have arrived at where the tournament is being held. They are registering their names when a rude dude shows up. It turns out that the dude is the chief steward of the Baek clan, Jang Siyun, and he is there with the representative of the Baek clan, Baek Sayon. Jang expresses his shock at seeing Joe and the Flame Hua clan at the tournament. Joe ignores the dude's rudeness and humbly greets him. However, the dude just continues to talk down on the Flame Hua clan. He mocks them, saying he is surprised that they even have the entry fee to pay for the tournament. He asks Joe if his clan has something to eat after they are done paying for the tournament fees. He also asks if they have paid the membership fees that they have been owing for 10 years. Jang mocks Joe for bringing the kids, saying they look like kids who are about to starve to death. At this point, Dojin and Soyeon are already getting pissed off too. Meanwhile, Mujin is lost in town, and he regrets not asking Masok where the event is being held. He looks into the distance and concludes that it is being held where the crowd is gathered. At the same time, 2 unique individuals, an old man and his granddaughter, are seen walking through town. The granddaughter is watching the beauty of the town when Mujin rushes past her, urging her to get out of the way. Mujin then stops in front of them, asking where the event is being held. Frustrated, Mujin turns to the lady, asking her if she knows where the event is being held, but the lady just stares at him scornfully. Mujin asks the lady why she is staring at him that way, and her grandfather cuts in, telling Mujin that they are also wandering around looking for the venue because they are not from around there. The old man then tells Mujin to tell them if he manages to find it, but Mujin rushes off, telling them to find the venue themselves because they have legs too. Mujin then runs off like a crazy dude, and the lady asks her grandfather what might be wrong with Mujin because he has never seen anyone as rude as him before. The old man then mentions that it appears that madness has completely taken over Mujin. The moment the old man says this, it dawns on the lady that her grandfather is talking about Mujin, the grandson of Hua Jutai. The old man is glad that he came personally because something interesting is about to happen. At the entrance of the venue, the situation between Joe and Jang has gotten more tense. Joe tells Jang that the membership fees they owe will soon be repaid. Instead of Jang backing off, he still mocks Joe, asking which year he plans to pay the due. He even insults them alongside their secret arts. Tired of hearing the trash he is talking about, Joe reaches for his sword, telling him to refrain from speaking trash in front of the children because there is a limit to his patience. Jang then pulls out his sword, daring Joe to pull out his sword. Just before the two can get the chance to have a go at each other, Mujin shows up, telling them to back off because it is the kids' day, and it would be bad if the adults ruin it. With a stern voice and scary face, Mujin mentions that the day is for the children, who are the hope of Xichang. Mujin walks past Jang, and just like before, Jang starts insulting Mujin too. Mujin ignores him and walks over to his siblings, asking them why they didn't tell him that there was a special event going on. While Dojin is still stuttering, Soyeon steps up, telling Mujin that they wanted to win it so that they can surprise him. Mujin pats Soyeon on the head for her mentality, but Jang still can't keep his mouth shut. He mocks the clan for being poor, and Mujin lets him know that the most important thing in a clan is martial arts, not the level of their wealth. Just then, the old man from earlier shows up on the scene, commending Mujin for speaking his mind very well. The old man then turns to Jang, suggesting that they put away their swords because it is a special day. However, Jang tells the old man to mind his business because he is not from the Flame Hua clan. Jang then continues by saying poverty is not something to brag about in a martial arts clan. He tells Mujin that he should have bought his siblings new clothes before coming to cheer them on. He makes it more hurtful by saying they must have spent all of the money on the entry fee. Du flares up again, but the old man cuts in. He mentions that there is no significance in dressing because dressing well doesn't turn a weak martial artist into a master. Jang is frustrated about the old man always butting in, and he tells him to mind his business. Jang finally decides to back off because he believes that he shouldn't be talking to paupers. Jang says he would like to see if the clan's said training would pay off in the sparring ring. The old man notices the anger on Mujin's face, and he tells him not to allow Jang's talk get to him because there are always guys like him everywhere. Mujin agrees with him and smiles. On the other hand, Joe is staring at the old man, and he believes that he looks familiar, but he can't seem to place his face. Just then, one of the servants shows up to tell Mujin and his clan that they have prepared seats for them. Mujin steps into the arena, and he is stunned at how neatly they set the table with food. The kids are blown away by the food, but Mujin urges them not to overeat because they don't know when the sparring will begin. Surprisingly, the Baek clan is led to the VIP seat, and Zhang turns around to give Mujin a cold smile. This leaves Mujin wondering when exactly he's going to get the chance to beat the shit out of Zhang. In fact, he is already imagining himself beating Zhang by plucking out his eyes first. Just then, the old man shows up asking to sit with Mujin. Mujin wonders why the old man keeps following him around, but he tells him that he is free to do whatever he wants. The kids are about to start eating when Mujin communicates with them using a frequency whispering technique. He tells them to drop the food and not touch anything until he has eaten out of it first. The old man's granddaughter, Hye, shows up with a bottle of alcohol, and she pours some into his cup. The old man notices that Mujin is not drinking or eating, and he asks him what is wrong. Mujin simply replies that he just ate long ago. Moments later, the host, Seok Ildo, steps into the middle of the arena to welcome everyone to the event. Apparently, he is the head of the Seok clan, and he assures everyone that food has been prepared for them. Suddenly, Seok notices the old man where he is sitting, and he frantically rushes over to him. Seok bows his head to the old man, paying his respects to him. The old man is surprised that Seok recognizes him, and Seok mentions that there is no way he won't recognize the esteemed face of the Poison Emperor, Tang Sumun. Everyone freaks out when they hear the identity of the old man because of the position he holds. Apparently, there are only 4 people who held the title of emperor in the whole Central Plains. There is the Wudang Sect Sword Emperor, the Shaolin Temple Fist Emperor, the 4 Martial Heavens Whip Emperor, and the Tang Clan Poison Emperor. They can't believe that one of the strongest men in the Central Plains has just shown up at a small children's sparring tournament in Xichang. The moment Zhang hears this, he starts to panic because he already insulted the old man without knowing. While everyone is freaking out, Mujin remains calm because he knows the dude from his past life. He remembers that when the 10-year war with the Orthodox sect began, 4 of the great clans, excluding the Namgung clan, stayed out of the fight against the divine demon. The reason they didn't join the fight was that there was no good justification for joining the war. In addition, the heads of the said clans and their main fighting forces had been brutally dealt with by the divine demon. It turns out that one of the dudes who was there on that day was Tang Sumun of the Tang clan, who would eventually become the Poison Emperor. Seok tells Tang to follow him to the VIP seats, but Tang lets the dude know that he is fine where he is. Seok is shocked to hear this, and to try to please Tang, he tells Mujin that he is free to move his seats too. However, Mujin rejects the offer and suggests that they start the whole sparring event. Meanwhile, Tang can't take his eyes off of Mujin because the more he looks at him, the more he realizes that he resembles his friend, Mujin's grandfather, who held him up in his moment of despair a long time ago. Seok then tells Mujin that the event will start very soon, and he asks Mujin if he is interested in participating. Mujin is confused when he hears this, and he asks Seok what he is talking about. Seok reveals that he is talking about the Orthodox Murim tournament that is held once every 5 years, and since it is coming soon, he wants to know if Mujin is interested. Mujin simply replies that the tournament is not in his best interest, so he has no reason to participate. Out of nowhere, Zhang runs up to Tang to offer his greetings and also to apologize for what happened earlier. He tells Tang that he didn't recognize him, but Tang ignores him and continues with his drink. Tired of the whole noise and all, Tang puts his granddaughter to the task of getting rid of the brats. Hye gets on her feet, and she urges the group to go back to their seat because her grandpa doesn't want commotion. Seok then tells the old man that they are going to start the match right away. Before the match begins, Seok explains the match rules. He mentions that they can only make use of non-lethal weapons made of wood, such as wooden swords or wooden spears. In addition, the usage of killing strikes is also forbidden. He mentions that if a supervisor or official throws a blue pouch into the arena, it means the match is temporarily suspended, but a red pouch means the match has come to a complete stop. Once he is done going over the rules, he calls out the first participants of the day, Baek Sayeon and Soyeon. Soyeon is busy munching on a big portion of meat when she hears her name. Mujin then tells her that it is time for them to see how much she has improved. Sayeon, on the other hand, is confident that he is going to beat Soyeon senselessly. Soyeon also steps into the ring, telling Sayeon that he is about to become the stepping stone for her glorious ascension. Sayeon is surprised that Soyeon is speaking to him rudely, but Soyeon urges him to keep his mouth shut and stop saying trash. This pisses Sayeon off, and he lets Soyeon know that he is going to break her arms and legs for this. Using the whispering technique, Mujin asks Joe if they were always on the bad side with Jang and his people. Joe then reveals that it wasn't a major issue when the Flame Emperor was still alive, but after the previous clan head held the succession ceremony, a few vassals left and sought refuge with the Baek clan. Apparently, Zhang is one of these sets of people. The more the clan declined, the more hostile they became. Mujin then asks them why they became a pain in the ass, and Joe reveals that they had a major clash with the previous clan head over differences in opinion. In addition, the Baek clan continued to grow as they took in more people from the Hua clan. Now in the arena, Sayeon dashes towards Soyeon, but she dodges his strike and kicks him in the chest. Before Sayeon can even recover from this, Soyeon has leaped into the air. She lands a knee blow to Sayeon's face, breaking his nose. Sayeon screams in pain and Soyeon stands over him, making fun of him because his nose is bleeding. Tang is surprised to see Soyeon using kick techniques, and he asks Mujin if he is the one who taught Soyeon this. However, Mujin mentions that it was Elder Joe who put Soyeon through such techniques. Hye then adds that Soyeon's athletic ability is high level too. However, she is interested in seeing how long Soyeon can hold out against an opponent with a sword. At the same time, Sayeon is raging as he screams at Soyeon, telling her that he is going to kill her. Sayeon dashes towards Soyeon, swinging his sword around, but Soyeon keeps dodging, thanks to her impressive agility. Hye is impressed at how Soyeon is able to dodge everything thanks to her movement art. At this point, Sayeon is getting frustrated, and he calls Soyeon a slippery toad. Before Soyeon knows it, she finds herself cornered by Sayeon with no space to dodge. Do and Jo freak out because they believe it is the end for Soyeon. Jang, on the other hand, is celebrating because he believes Sayeon finally has what it takes to finish Soyeon. Sayeon charges towards Soyeon with everything he has, but to everyone's surprise, Soyeon acrobatically leaps over Sayeon. Sayeon turns around with anger, telling Soyeon that she has been running around for a while. However, Soyeon lets him know that he just fell for her trap. Sayeon is confused by this, and Soyeon tells him that she finally has the chance to beat the living shit out of him because he is the one backed to a wall. Soyeon raises her leg with so much ferocity, and she dares Sayeon to block the attack with the dead wood he calls a sword. Before Sayeon knows it, Soyeon lands a powerful kick to his head, sending him to the floor in pain. The sudden change in the pace of the game impresses the elders, and they start rooting for Soyeon, while Jang is groaning in frustration. Sayeon tries to fight back, but Soyeon is just too goated for him, and she continues kicking him around like a ball. Before Sayeon knows it, Soyeon sends him flying, and even breaks his wooden sword too. Jang fears the worst, and he screams at the referee to throw in the blue pouch. By this time, Soyeon is already standing above Sayeon, ready to finish him off. However, the referee saves his ass. But instead of keeping his mouth shut, Sayeon starts talking trash again. He talks about coming over to the Hua clan and wiping all of them out. This is when Soyeon snaps, telling Sayeon that she has no intention of stopping since she has shattered Sayeon's sword. Sayeon tries telling her that the blue pouch has already been thrown in, which means the match is suspended. But Soyeon replies that this is none of her concern. Soyeon walks up to him, telling him that he is free to come to the clan later with all the warriors of his choice. But at the moment, he is so dead. Sayeon doesn't understand what is going on until Soyeon descends on him, knocking him to the ground. Tang watches in horror, while Mujin jumps up to celebrate, telling Soyeon that this is the way. Jang gets up to ask the referee why Soyeon didn't stop even though the blue pouch was already thrown in. However, Soyeon gets disqualified for hitting Sayeon after the match was suspended. The elders are disappointed, but Mujin is laughing like a maniac. As Soyeon returns to her seat, she shoots out her tongue in front of Jang to mock him. Soyeon returns to her seat, and the elders demand to know why she continued fighting, even though the pouch had been thrown in. Soyeon replies that she was aware, but she enjoyed beating Sayeon up rather than winning. Mujin laughs out loud, agreeing to his sister's take on this. Mujin doesn't stop there as he starts dancing like a turkey, as if his sister just won the tournament. Meanwhile, Jang is fuming with anger as he watches Mujin jump around in mockery. Mujin is so happy that he tells Tang that they should drink all they want. However, he lets Tang know that he will be the one to pay for it. Tang then asks Soyeon why she didn't use the clan's secret art because she would have easily won the fight. Soyeon replies that she didn't see the need to use the secret arts on trash like Sayeon because she was already beating him senseless without it. In addition, Soyeon believes that Sayeon might find a way to counter it if she uses it recklessly. Tang laughs out loud when he hears this, and this is because he agrees with Soyeon. Tang then ordered more liquor, and with this, their drinking party continued. Everyone in the arena was fixated on Mujin casually clinking cups with the Poison Emperor. Even though there were lots of matches going on, everyone was staring at Mujin and Tang. Even Seok was already growing irritated about the whole thing. Not long after this, the match between Dojin and Seok's rep, Chu Yong, comes up. Dojin leaves the table, and Mujin motivates his brother, telling him to give them hell. Tang is surprised when he sees Dojin go to the arena with a sword, instead of relying on the bare-handed technique. The referee starts the match, and Seok is confident that his prodigy will come out as the winner in the tournament. He is hoping that he would get Tang's attention with this, but Chu Yong's first move ends up being his last, as Dojin easily dodges him and lands a finishing blow to his head. Everyone watching is shocked when they see this because they didn't even understand what just happened. On the other hand, those in the Hua corner are celebrating Dojin's win. Even Tang is impressed by the swordsmanship that he just witnessed because he didn't know the Hua clan had such a technique. Mujin then reveals that the swordsmanship displayed by his brother isn't merely a sword technique with good efficiency, but it is a sword technique that contains the principles of advanced martial arts. The people are confused when they hear this, and Mujin jumps up from where he is, showing everyone the martial arts book of the mind-severing sword art. Everyone almost goes blind thanks to the incredible energy coming out of the secret manual. Mujin then makes a bold move of telling the crowd that whoever wants to learn the art is free to join his clan. He assures them that everything in the book will lead them to remarkable growth in martial arts. Just as expected, the crowd starts to go nuts as they all jump to tell Mujin that they are interested. Mujin then tells them that whoever is interested in joining should talk to Elder Do. Elder Do wastes no time whipping out his pen and telling all the interested parties to line up. Tang laughs out loud, saying Mujin is definitely living up to his reputation of being crazy because he has the guts to recruit members in the middle of an event. Meanwhile, Seok has lost his patience, and he wishes that Tang were not in attendance. Zhang then walks up to him, asking him if he is seriously going to watch as Mujin and the Hua clan do as they please. Seok replies that Tang is watching and there is really nothing that they can do. Zhang then mentions that he has a strategy, and this strategy involves them swapping the bracket so that they can bring in Seok Yoso. Thanks to the Hua clan losing its power in recent times, the Seok clan and the Baek clan started scheming to fill the vacuum with their own power. One of the ways they have done this is the Dragon Ascension Tournament, which is being held every 5 years. They have basically manipulated the tournament bracket to make their apprentice martial artists win so that they can send them into the Orthodox Muram tournament to raise their group's name. Thanks to the group's power rising through this, they decided to monopolize the Little Dragon Ascension Tournament to continue expanding their influence. When it is finally time for the final match in the top 32 for the tournament, the referee introduces Seok Yoso as the contestant against Ban Yeowol of the Half Moon Sect. Apparently, whoever wins the match is going to face Dojin in the next round. Suddenly, Joe notices that Yoso is not supposed to be participating. Joe mentions that he is the champion of the previous tournament, and there was news that he had entered the Diankong sect to train. Even his opponent, Ban, is shocked when he sees Yoso, and he asks him why he is participating. Ban mentions that the tournament only allows participants up to 14 years old, and Yoso confidently replies that he is aware of this. Yoso mentions that he is 14 years old, but Ban replies that he is lying because he is already 15. However, Yoso didn't allow Ban to finish his statement before going after him. Yoso knocks Ban to the ground pretty easily, making him the winner of the match. Yoso proudly talks about how his birthday hasn't passed yet. Joe is pissed when he sees this, and he wants to intervene, but Mujin tells him to leave it, because Yoso is the best opponent that they can ask for. Not long after this, Dojin steps into the ring to face Yoso. Tang notices the change in the atmosphere, and he figures out that this is a finals match in advance. Even though Dojin seems to be at a disadvantage, the elders and his sister encourage him, telling him that he can win. Mujin, on the other hand, wears his serious face as he tries to understand the situation. Yoso then tells Dojin that the sword technique that he used got his brother eliminated. Dojin asks him if he is trying to get revenge, but Yoso tells Dojin to stop saying trash. Yoso mentions his plan to make sure that Dojin doesn't use the sword again. Without wasting time, Yoso charges at Dojin with the 12 radiant sword strikes, forcing Dojin on the defensive. However, Yoso continues pushing forward, making life difficult for Dojin. Tang assesses the situation, and he easily figures out that Dojin is going to have a difficult time dealing with Yoso. Meanwhile, Seok is glad that Yoso is beating Dojin up because he wants to prove to the Emperor that they are superior. Yoso swings his sword hard at Dojin and mocks him for losing his balance. Just then, Yoso gets the drop on Dojin, and he hits his hand with his sword because this is what he has been waiting for. This hurts Dojin so hard that he crashes to the ground in pain. Yoso is about to finish the fight when Mujin throws in the blue pouch to stop the fight. Yoso smiles, believing that his victory is already secured. Mujin calls Dojin out of the arena to check his hand, and he realizes that Yoso intentionally targeted the joints. Mujin helps Dojin to rearrange them a bit, and Dojin screams out through the entire process. After he is done, Mujin tells him that he has set the bones, but it might be hard for Dojin to use the sword. He asks Dojin what he plans to do, and Dojin tells his brother to tie his hand to the wooden sword. Mujin is impressed when he hears this, and he goes ahead to do what Dojin requested. Once he is done, Dojin returns to the arena, looking more determined than before. Tang commends Dojin's bravery, and Mujin says this is the least Dojin can do because it's from a respectable martial arts clan. When Yoso returns to the ring, he expresses his surprise that Dojin didn't actually run away. However, Yoso lets Dojin know that he is about to do to him what they did to Mujin when he was young. Dojin is forced to ask Yoso what he just said, and Yoso leaps toward Dojin, talking about how he plans to make Dojin and his brother the new pair of crippled brothers in Xicheng. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment next part in the comment section. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and like the video. Thank you for watching, and see you next time again.